Hello again, friends! And you are our friends, and welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru on a nice, hot day here in the Northeast. We'll see how hot it is somewhere else right now. I'm sure we'll get the rain report momentarily. I'm your host, the great Brian Last, and here he is, the star of the show. We got a packed show today, Mr. Jim Cornette.
It's not raining, Brian. Back to you.
Major news here at the start of the show. It isn't raining in Louisville. There isn't a tornado on the way. No one is under a table. No one is hiding. How does this feel? Does this feel like success?
There's no under the table going on. No, it's sunny. It's actually hot. We're going to have the hottest day so far this year today, and that's going to go on for a couple of days, and then it's going to rain again. But at least it shouldn't be severe weather. But of course, as I prophesized, and the prophecy has come true, last year on June the 3rd is when I planted those trees, and it didn't rain for another 23 days. We had a big drought. It was 90 degrees every day. Well, it's been obviously raining up until this point, and now, as of June the 3rd, the forecast is we're going to get like an inch of rain 2 or 3 days later. But I didn't plant anything this year. See, there's the rub.
Oh, yeah.
And you? Arn Anderson used to say, and you?
Well, coming from, and
what'd you plant
and there's
this
the
year?
Rub, and then you go to me. I don't know what kind of transition that is. Yeah, you know,
No,
I just saw this thing on TV. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. It's called Spruce. Not to give anyone a free ad, because I don't know if it works or not, but I'm going to buy one and check it out. It's apparently a weed and grass killer that's safe for animals and humans. Have you seen the commercials for this?
they have not done that here or shown those here yet. I have not seen this.
Well, whatever you said made me think of that.
Well, you get the various the rains bring the flowers and the trees and the weeds.
The weeds. So
they have been, yes, and no, my yard gentlemen have to come and spray a bunch of various shit in some of these mulch beds that have just been overgrown with the things. But no, it's not safe you can't just go out there and get on your hands and knees on all fours and just start licking dandelions and shit. That shit'll kill you if you do that. I don't know about you. How is it safe what are you just eating this on Ritz crackers, but you put it on dandelions and Bermuda grass and it kills it deader than 4 o'clock?
The ad on Amazon had like this very pretty woman holding a canister, no gloves, no boots or anything.
Was she eating it?
No, she's just smiling as she sprays it onto the pavement.
Onto the pavement?
Or onto the pavement.
Well, how are you going to kill weeds on the pavement?
If they're, paving stones.
The stones are growing weeds?
In between the stones.
Oh, in between So, but then the little dogs and the cats and the bunny rabbits and everything can just come up and still eat that stuff, and it just doesn't hurt them at all, but it kills these weeds that have taken hold and are disrupting your entire walking area.
I think I got to check it out. I'll let you know. We'll do it.
Have the oldest kid eat some first.
No one's going to eat it. Why did you go to licking dandelions and eating it? What the hell's the matter with you?
If it's supposed to be harmless to all these people, have the oldest, the hardiest child, the one that's got the best developed immune system, have them eat it first. And if it doesn't harm them, then you could graduate down to where you could feel safe all the way down to Swami or the youngest child, whichever is lower in body weight.
I'll just see if any deer drop dead outside. If they do, I'll know that.
Well, then you'd feel awful bad, wouldn't you?
I mean, if it gets rid of that, the biggest problem I have now is there's bobcats in the area, and that scares the shit out of me. I'm scared to death of like a bobcat running up here and deciding I look like lunch.
Bobcats can be vicious. Ask Al Snow. But I'll tell you, I got an email, Brian.
Who's it
got
from?
an email.
Who's it from, Jim?
From, well, as a matter of fact, I got a package. That's Bobcat. No, I've got a package. First of all, in the mail from Lucas Kinzer. Bless your little pea-picking heart. Because did we just say like last week, I think it was on one of the programs here, I mentioned that the grocery store here stopped carrying my favorite brand of Remoulade. The Louisiana brand of Remoulade. Well, can there be any other? Because that's what Remoulade is, Louisiana mayonnaise. And guess what he sent me, his little pea-picking heart that just got blessed? A box of 12 bottles of my Remoulade. And now I'm not going to be a Scrooge. Now also the in-laws, Stace's folks, have Remoulade, and the Featherbottom family has Remoulade, and we are stocked with Remoulade, thanks to Lucas. I appreciate that. Can you? Bless him that he thought of me. But also, what a great.
That's what he did. He thought of you, and then you said, "Oh, let me give away this guy's stuff to everyone I know." Hey,
well, no, I wanted to share the event with my immediate family. I wanted to share the good fortune of knowing of a fine, upstanding, generous person like Lucas. See, and you try to twist it into something ugly. And for heaven's sake, when we're trying to be, he's loving people, and I think he's an example of the cult of Cornette members out there that are so giving and loving. And I can just mention that I've got a shortage of something in my life, and they've sent me Sprite Zero, paper towels, now Remoulade. And I'll have you know, Brian, last week, I went over to the bank, and my bank is out of 20s. I don't know what I'm going to do. I got no 20s. $20 bills, folks. Just, you can find the post office box on the website. But that's the box I got, or the package, or the container, the box-like structure that came. Brian, but also I got an email from my friend Chad. You know our buddy Chad over in West Virginia, the world's foremost blind vendor. You remember we've had discussions about
He's been ripping off blind people for years. Oh, here, let me sell you this $10,000 watch. It's nothing.
No, quit. No,
he steals from the blind.
You've misrepresented. You've got it backwards again. He is a blind person stealing from people with sight. Get it straight. He's actually a blind vendor. He's not vending to the blind. He's a blind person that's vending. So all the money that he steals, it comes from the fucking people with eyes that ought to know better.
Sounds like it could be an undercover cop.
Don't impugn his intent. That's not why he wears that raincoat. But that's
sounds like an undercover cop. That's why he's selling all the. Why is that blind person selling all these things? It doesn't even make. How's he driving? It doesn't make sense.
Well, remember we've started having fun with that and taking the piss, as they say across the pond, out of what we thought was the funniness of Chad or any other blind people driving up and down the interstate there, attending to his various vending machines. And that's what he wanted to let us know about. Do you know, Brian, that is in many places and oft times, and for some individuals, it is possible for a blind person, a legally blind person, to get a license to drive. Did you know this?
I did not. I mean, well, again, when you say legally blind, is that George Weingroff? You know what I mean? Like, what? Like, is it someone who just can't see at all? Like,
well, I mean, but did you shadow George Weingroff around to see how many things he bumped into?
No.
Know whether he ought to be fucking driving or not?
What did you think? You were around him. You were around him enough. Should he have been driving?
I was around him. I think his brother Eric, that was the referee, was blinder. He didn't see anything. That's a dick. When Bobby Eaton of Eric was so green, Bobby Eaton was calling a spot one time, and the guy he was working with had the guy in a headlock. And he asked the guy, he said, "Can you leapfrog?" And Eric, the referee, is standing over next to him. And he thought he was talking to him because Bobby wasn't looking at the guy directly in his face. And he just looked at Bobby and said, "I think so." Anyway, back to Chad now. Yeah. Chad is on the docket here. he mentions there are more blind people driving than you think. Bioptic correction is allowed in many states for this type of corrective lens. It's allowed in Kentucky, but not New Jersey, although there is a conflict on that data. Some sites say yes, others no. So, Brian, you got a 50-50 shot maybe of getting out on the parkway with somebody. Some say, are you blind, you son of a bitch? Well, yeah, he is. But anyway, basically, and without going into a doctoral dissertation on the subject, bioptics are a pair of glasses with a micro-sized telescope set in the lens of the stronger of the two eyes. A legally blind person whose best correction with standard glasses is 2200, with bioptics gets it down to 2060 and can get a license. And according to the way I understand that is, and again, Chad, feel free, but the 2020 vision is, you've heard say perfect. It's basically, you can see at 20 feet what a person with normal eyesight should be able to see at 20 feet. Is kind of the scale there in layman's terms. Even if I do never get laid.
This guy's sounding less blind by the second.
Well, no, he still doesn't drive. He's mentioned that before. He sent me an email saying that he did have a bit of a giggle fest about the two of us imagining him driving up and down to his locations. He's not one of the people that is doing that. But
who was it one
but
time?
But it's possible.
Well, I think we talked about it years ago, the idea that Stevie Wonder isn't really blind. And who was it? There was some celebrity that was like, yeah, one time we were at Stevie's house listening to music in the car. I think it was Lionel Richie. And he's like, yeah, Stevie just put the car in reverse and started driving. You know, just, all of a sudden he's driving. And then you hear from other people, they're like, yeah, I was next to him. I'm pretty sure it was almost like he could see me. But he can't. He's Stevie Wonder. So I wonder, though, with the driving, the self-driving cars like Teslas, even though they may decapitate some, does that change the way... I mean, maybe not now, but I guess in the future, will it change the way that licensing works for
now, wait a minute,
seeing impaired people?
We've already had the discussion that I would shit myself and die of a heart attack within seconds of being inside a self-driving car.
You have eyes.
It gives me serious anxiety to be in a car with somebody else driving it that can see and is human, right? So I can't imagine the thought of me being on the road and not freaking out when there's the potential of a self-driving car with a blind person inside of it coming in the other direction to me.
How about this? This could work really well for the YouTube channel if you would actually try it. And we'll get like a location that's safe, that's like open road, but there's not a lot, like an old country road. There won't be a lot of people there. You just have to go like 50 yards down the road with a blind person driving. You can sit in the passenger seat or the back. 50 yards in the car with a blind person. Driving. Not self-driving, but they're driving.
Wait a minute. 50 yards, though, in the course of the distance of driving in a regular car or vehicle or some description is pretty, if you were pointed straight, pretty much.
Yeah, maybe 50 yards wasn't the best idea. Yeah, maybe that wasn't a bad idea.
Yeah, so I'll take that.
You'll do it?
You'd have to fuck it up on purpose.
Would you do 100 yards?
Now you're pushing your luck there, pal.
It's your luck I'm really pushing, not my own.
Yeah, you're pushing my fucking health. And maybe I'll as Mama Cornette used to say, how about we don't and say we did?
All right, well, this is your country.
But road. I got Remoulade, and you got the show, baby.
Oh, great. Well, that was the update on blind people on the road. And of course, this has been an ongoing series. We may spin it off into a brand new podcast. Stay tuned for that. Jim, what's going on at Cornette's Collectibles?
Well, as a matter of fact, this is a good time to bring it up. I was crowing on the last episode of one of the programs that we did that I just handed off the last a couple of hundred packages to Hotchkiss. And we're all caught up, so order with impunity. And unfortunately, the fellow known as Hotchkiss Featherbottom who's a heck of a guy named Jason Lindsay, who has been all kinds of help to me and you guys in getting you stuff that you order a lot quicker than I used to by myself. His mother is really sick. And for the next week or two, nothing's probably going to get mailed out. Some of the packages that I've handed off may actually have gone. But if not, I've told him that his family is more important. And so for the next few weeks, you can still order stuff and you'll get it, but nothing's going out for the next week or two because of that situation. So if anybody wants to wait, and we'll take a little break. But I don't know if he's going to get a chance to listen to this program, but if he does, all of the cult members that you have helped out in replacing damaged merchandise or finding the package that the post office sent to Antarctica, that's he's the guy that has done that, and we wish him the best. Anyway, that's what's going on at JimCornette.com.
That's right. Good guy. All kidding aside, good guy.
So what's going on with you, Brian?
It's the Hotchkiss persona that I have a problem with, but the man behind the mask is a good man.
You know what? Now, did you hear that they would allow him to cross state lines only if he wears that mask?
Again, let's not make jokes like that. We're saying nice things about the guy. Why do you always have to end everything with like, all right, let's go into the gutter and just kick him a few times?
Well, because it was there. And that's the thing, that he had made certain settlements in order to get back in the state.
All right. Well, let's see about what state we're in right now. Jim, there is a lot going on. We have a lot to get to. We have some reviews. We have the roster review, which a lot of people have been waiting for. Lots of other things happening. Why don't we start with something that's a bit, what the hell's going on with this? We talked last week about Ric Flair and the news that he had launched or was behind a company or aligned with a company called Ric Flair Spirits, of all things, with a line of Ric Flair liquor drinks, Ric Flair liquors, Ric Flair alcohol
like
products.
Have you had some of the Ric Flair liquor drinks, Brian?
Everything from Flair bourbon to wooski. Right when we talked about that, there were a lot of people getting in touch about a tweet. Jim Ross has been on social media, from at least what I've seen, I don't follow him or anything, just a few times it's been retweeted over the last few weeks, talking about his medical issues, and he went in for surgery. He came out of surgery.
Yes. And he just actually, I think right before we're going on the air, has tweeted that he's home from the hospital and, starting his recovery there. But yeah, we've mentioned a few weeks ago when he made the public statement that he was being treated for cancer. Everybody's up on that.
And Jim Ross has a lot of fans. So naturally,
yeah,
his fans would want to know what's going on with him, especially if it's something, as serious as this. Well, in the midst of that, Ric Flair tweeted out, "Jim Ross will always be Jim Ross, seeking attention. Focus on your recovery." And then he tagged him in it, and a lot of people took that as, what the hell is Ric Flair doing? Why would he do this?
Was there a smiley face?
No, I don't think Ric Flair uses emojis, or at least
or
not
any type of little semicolon, right parenthesis.
Other than him tagging him at the end to make sure he saw it, no.
But that's. I heard that. I didn't hear it. It wasn't spoken. I saw that, and I was trying to figure out if it was in response to some specific statement or event or remark that someone has made. Was it in response to something that someone had said, or that an announcement that had been made that people were supposed to know what the fuck he was talking about? If he then, as we will find out here in a second, claimed that it was taken out of context. What was the context? You just blurted something out in the wild, right? And nobody, if they did misunderstand it from what you meant it to be, Rick, then Why not? Because we knew what you were fucking talking about.
How did you take it? Jim
I
Ross
took it
will
like
always be
Jesus
Jim Ross, seeking attention. Focus on your
That's what I
recovery.
was. That's right, because people had started retweeting it with the goddamn like Jesus guy, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm thinking, from Jim Ross's goddamn hospital gurney, did he give some kind of interview where he said something about Rick that what bam? And I'm like, then since that apparently is not the case, I'm wondering if Flair just saw something at some point in time and assumed that if he responded to it, that at that moment that everybody would know exactly what he was fucking talking about. But it was the oddest fucking thing.
Did they have problems?
I don't know what to fucking think.
When you were with them, and again, they worked together after that too, but when you were with them, let's say in 88, 89, 90, did they have problems? Did they work well together?
The only problem that they had, and I've said this many times, was that Flair viewed JR as being more on Jim Herd's side because JR had to coexist in the office with the fucking raccoon-headed asshole and was tried to be a more amenable or professional or acquiescent or whatever to him than Flair, who just wanted to say, fuck you, jump out the window, and me too. But it was not like that either one of them personally had an issue with each other or whatever. And as I said, I don't know what's gone on with anybody the last number of years. I'm over here. I try to stay away from these things. But that's what Flair put out a follow-up tweet that said that he was in some way misunderstood or misrepresented or whatever. And if you read that, let's try to figure out how the fuck that is a thing that could be.
And actually, there's two things here. I have the tweet, which I believe you're referencing. I also have a statement that he issued after that. So let's go to here. Here's the tweet. If you can't take a joke from a 76-year-old man, then you are living life too seriously. It was all harmless.
Wait a minute. Should you also mention that you're saying that because every word is capitalized?
Yeah, that's the rule. If it's capitalized, we yell it. That's the Russo rule when it comes to reading documents.
Yes.
Then you are living life too seriously. It was all harmless, lighthearted fun. Just trying to make people laugh and smile.
What the?
All those Jim Ross haters. He's trying to make laugh and smile. Hey, I heard Jim Ross had surgery for cancer. You know what? Let me go make a joke. You're seeking attention again.
I gotta be honest. Rick used to be a bit better of a comedian. How is that a joke? That's what I'm thinking is, does Rick think that he's sending out the meaning that he thinks in his head telepathically along with these tweets so people would understand it? I was like, God damn, he's seeking attention for his cancer.
How'd you got cancer? Seeking attention again. Woo! Well, we have another statement here. I won't yell this one. I just made it clear to the world in an article coming out on Sports Illustrated by Justin Barrasso that Jim Ross was on my Mount Rushmore, along with Gordon Soley, Gene Okerlund, and Jerry Lawler. That's an interesting Mount Rushmore there.
That is an interesting choice of announcers when he's covering the spectrum.
That's high praise, because it was very difficult for me to leave out Tony Schiavone.
Oh, Jesus.
But Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler were the greatest tandem ever. Nobody should be upset because two people have a difference in opinion. It happens in life. I lost a son. He lost a beautiful wife. We have a lot in common. We were both considered the best at what we do. Let's leave it alone at that, and all the haters can focus on someone else now.
Well, wait a minute. I think it was alone until you brought it up. But besides that,
Ignore the fire. I started the fire.
what? What was the difference of opinion? Or he said everybody has a difference of opinion. What, he was for cancer and JR is against it?
He said he had cancer. I said that. He's looking for attention. He said, no, I have cancer. Woo! It's a difference of opinion.
What is the difference of opinion?
You need a second opinion? You're seeking attention.
That's like, oh, I tell you, I went to the doctor. The doctor said, I think you're ugly. I said, I'd like a second opinion. Okay, you're stupid too.
How you doing, Jim? Do you have a good support system? Well, the greatest of all time just told me I'm seeking attention. Do you think Rick should send him a case of whiskey or something to ease the pain, or
I don't know. Well, maybe Rick can, the next business he'll get into is an organ transplant service called Woo Organs. Because if you partake in all the rest of the Woo brand items, you're going to need your liver replaced, your kidneys replaced, your pancreas, your uvula. All those things are going to need to come out and have somebody else's come in. So start now, and that way they can start harvesting the organs for the next generation of the Woosumers. Woosumers.
You can just see Jim Ross's face, like looking at his phone, like, hey, let me scroll. What the fuck? What the fuck? All right. Well, that's the, I don't know what we call it, the Ric Flair Jim Ross feud update. It's just a difference of opinion. All the haters can focus on something else. It was a joke.
It's just you and me, and we just disagree. Dun, 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 dun.
Before we go too much further, let's get the reviews out of the way. What did you watch, and when did you watch it?
Well, I'll tell you what. Here is a comment that I'm going to make, Brian, to you as I go to my notepad, because it has been a topic that has come up on my Twitter machine that in response to some of our clips on YouTube, when we tweet out the links to these things as a service to the public, free of charge, we tweet out these links. You click on, see, this is another thing. Did you know that somebody stole links from Hotchkiss Featherbottom? He had invented them about a year or two ago. But then somebody jumped in and yes, and somebody all that far back, and somebody jumped in and got to market with him first, but he invented the link. But we tweet the links to the YouTube videos of people, some of these rabble rousers in the minority have tweeted me back and said, hey, you guys just gloss over the WWE. You'll go into minute detail about what goes on Dynamite and tell them what all's wrong and everything and how bad they fucked up, but you just gloss over the WWE. You barely even talk about it sometimes. And I believe we've explained this before, at least I have. I feel like I have, Brian. Maybe I've got the milk of amnesia. But it's the reason for that in a lot of cases is because where the WWE is just kind of fucking boring, professionally done, not quite as many, near as many production fuck ups, and occasionally somebody drops Gable on his head or whatever, but normally not anything to fucking take to task in the ring on a professionalism basis. It's just kind of there, and it takes 3 hours. It gives you about 15 minutes of entertainment. Whereas on the other program, it's like trying to run through the Zapruder film and analyze exactly how many shooters were there, where were they coming from, and who was in the book depository when so-and-so went out on a stretcher. It's so unprofessional from so many different standpoints, and it makes no logical sense from one moment to another that one must try to keep up with these things as best we can. The other thing is like what do they call them little poems in school, Brian? The little short poems, the haikus. Did you study those back in grade school?
We did, yeah.
How many lines is supposed to be in one of those? Is that the 5-line deal, or am I thinking about the limericks with the girl from Nantucket?
I said we studied it. I didn't say I retained it.
You didn't say you retained any of it. It's brief is what it is. Well, that's what it's like. It's like the WWE is giving us a wrestling haiku, but it takes you 2 and 3 hours to watch the thing. Whereas meanwhile, AEW is over there like the meth head across the street after a 3-day binge, just prattling on, tweaking all over the fucking place. You don't know where to start in trying to analyze his fucking behavior. So I got a couple of comments about Smackdown, and you can just let me know whether you agree with me or not in terms of general overall. Why they had 14,600 people in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's a goddamn hell of a house in Knoxville, Tennessee. And half the crowd was wearing the UT orange, and Bianca's hometown, she went to Tennessee. I don't know if she was actually born in the city limits or whatever, but she came out in the, University of Tennessee colors and everything. And she wanted to get everybody to sing Rocky Top. But then when the music started, it was like a marching band Rocky Top instrumental. And they just sat there because they couldn't figure out where to come in. And she's not leading them. She never sang at all. She wanted the people to sing, but she didn't want to reveal that she couldn't carry a tune in a bushel basket. So about halfway through, they figured out, oh shit, it's there. And then they came in and sang the chorus twice. But how do you screw up Rocky Top in Knoxville, Tennessee? How is it possible to fuck up the presentation of the goddamn national anthem of Knoxville, Tennessee? These are just rhetorical questions, Brian, but feel free to kick in at any. Would you like to hear Bianca Belair sing?
I had never heard her sing, and I'm not too familiar with Rocky Top, so.
Come on!
Sounds like this is a win-win for me.
No, Rocky Top is the anthem of the UT anthem, but also it's the Osborne brothers. Rocky Top, you'll always be home sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top, Tennessee. You could just blare that on the loudspeakers in the middle of downtown Knoxville at fucking noon on a Friday, and everybody would just come to a halt and start singing. Once 2 strangers climbed old Rocky Top looking for a moonshine still. Strangers ain't come down from Rocky Top, reckon they never will. No, there's no organ. There's a fiddle and a banjo. No, there's no wind chimes either. But anyway, she did a promo about how happy she was. This is the point I was going to make, and then we'll move on. She did a promo about how happy she was coming home to her safe space to heal. She's got a broken fucking finger. She's literally holding a microphone with a goddamn hand that's got the fucking finger split on it. She had to come home to a safe space to heal for a broken fucking finger. Ricky Morton worked for 6 weeks one time with a broken hand. Naomi came out and did the fucking promo about when she broke into Bianca's parents' house. And I said, oh, for fuck's sake. And they go into the Money in the Bank qualifier with Jade and Nia and Naomi. And by the time that's over, it's 30 minutes of the program. And I did say I would call out unprofessionalism with Nia Jax, she went to bonsai the both of them stacked on top of each other. And Naomi moved and Nia Jax just, I can't believe she didn't pop both of Jade's implants. What the fuck? There is two reasons I can think of why that you would bonsai drop somebody in that fashion. You don't give a fuck or you don't like them. And don't give a fuck is usually reserved. Well, he's a job guy. We'll never see him again. Don't give a fuck. I got to get over. And don't like somebody as well. I'm going to show this fucking Jesus Christ. I would. And then it was 16 minutes till the next match started, and there wasn't even a big live in-ring interview. Brian, have you sat down with a watch on SmackDown or Raw lately and seen how long it is between things that happen that don't really fucking matter to begin with?
I haven't. You've mentioned this a few times lately. You've been walking around a lot with this stopwatch, haven't you?
Okay, well, because I got mad. Boy, I didn't even get to tell you at the top of the program about the badass battery-operated leaf blower I've got. But more on that later. They had a match with R-Truth, more on him later, against old JC Mateo. And how old, can you Google, how old is the former Jeff Cobb? Because they said he was in the 2004 Olympics.
42 years old.
Jesus Christ. I think maybe they ought to say former Olympian, because you wouldn't have thought that, but it calls your attention to it. And he beats R-Truth in minutes, and he's not bad. He has a nice finish. But basically, the story through the whole thing, the reason to watch SmackDown is for the 10 minutes that Solo and Jacob Fatu have an argument, and eventually they're going to break up. But besides that, and the 4 tag teams, now with Candy LaRue, the Street Profits, the Motor City Machine Guns, Ciampa and Gargano now with Candy, and what the Meth Head and Masked Man. They had an argument until all the lights went out, and then the Wyatt goofballs came back and beat everybody up, and that was the first hour of the show. That's it. And then I'll do you better than that. The next half hour was Javon Evans and Phoenix against the Lucha Heels, which started 22 minutes after the last match had ended and went over 15 minutes until Ethan Page screwed the baby faces. And then we were an hour and a half into the show. Brian said it's easier if you keep an eye on the watch instead of the program. We got Zelina against Alba Fire.
There's no way you watched that.
Of course I didn't. And then we got an in-ring promo with Damian Priest, and he's finally beaten Drew McIntyre. He is not connecting with this living on the street gimmick. Is it because nobody on the street has custom-made leather outfits? Or what is not? They've tried to draw on his legitimate background of being apparently impoverished or living on or near a street. I don't fucking know. But is he too clean? Is he too gimmicky? What is he? What the fuck ain't working here? Because people ain't getting into it.
I don't know exactly. Sometimes it feels like guys are made top guys or pushed to be top guys just because of their size and everything, when sometimes maybe they would be better with another person. I think Priest with Judgment Day was one thing. Him as that group's leader or muscle worked. Him on his own, what are you getting behind? He's a babyface, so you got to get behind him. What are you getting behind exactly? He's won some big matches, and Drew's not going to be around for a while, I guess. But there's nothing interesting about him. I mean, again, I said it before, even his gear, just everything. So there needs to be almost like a complete revamp, which is crazy. They put the belt on this guy, but it doesn't connect with me at all. Priest is one of these guys at this point now that causes me to look away or change the channel just because I'm not.
Don't look away. I'm hideous. I'm hideous.
I have
look away.
The Met game may be on one of the other monitors in here, but it's not interesting stuff.
Oh God! If you look at Damian Priest in the face, you'll turn to stone. I mean, there's a lot of tools there, and obviously they've seen that, and that's why they're trying. But I don't. Maybe it's that he has not felt comfortable, or to me, he doesn't look like he feels comfortable in doing what he's doing as a single now, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas, like you said, with a bunch of his buddies, maybe he is a buddy buncher, where you got to bunch him in with the buddies. Can you trademark Buddy Buncher real quick? In case, and then
Buddy Buncher.
We can call the women's division Carpet Bunchers. Buddy Bunchers and Carpet Bunchers coming soon to a store near you.
That trademark.
Will any of that make the final cut?
I don't know. This is your SmackDown review.
Well, you'll have to run it through legal.
Well,
but
yeah,
anyway,
we could definitely say Travis, don't use it, but go ahead.
Yeah, well. Oh, and good, me shopping for produce. I loved it, Travis. Thank you. So anyway, we were at 10 o'clock, and they have the Money in the Bank qualifier, Fatu and Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. And I love Jacob Fatu, but a 20-minute three-way with two job guys, and I'm good. We get to the meat of the matter. Is it Solo and old... the former artist of Jeff Cobb or whatever comes out, and they do a few things back and forth, boom, boom, boom. But when Jacob moonsaults old Andrade, Solo jumps up. He's like, do it again. And he distracts from the things, and they get mad. And Jimmy Uso appears and attacks JC Mateo, and Andrade bumps Jacob out, and Solo beat Carmelo 1, 2, 3. So now Jacob is not happy with Solo or the other guy, and he's also not in that. There's some more top stars about to not be in the Money in the Bank than there is in the Money in the Bank. I wonder what's in the bank. Should we open up that vault, get into that safe deposit box, see exactly what's in that bank? So by then it was 10:30. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, there's been different things I've seen online circulating recently that Triple H is not a fan of Money in the Bank. And people thinking that maybe this will be another one of these things in WWE that Triple H gets rid of.
Gets away with?
Money in the Bank. Do you think Money in the Bank's been established to this point where they kind of have to do it? Or do you think it should go away? Should it change? What are your thoughts on it?
You don't have to do anything. Many things you should do. Have WrestleMania next year. Well, that's probably a safe bet. But no, the Money in the Bank thing, besides the fact that it's been overdone to begin with, think about this. At first, the idea was, well, whoever climbs it and will get a shot at the title. Well, then there became 2 titles, and there became multiple champions that you could challenge. And then now every time they do something with the guys, they got to do it with the girls. So it's just, I don't know if it's special enough anymore at this point in time to make any big difference, but I think they can definitely, they could probably downgrade it. Is that the word for draw it back a little bit to where it's a TV thing over the course of the summer and use the pay-per-view for something else newer and fresher they might come up with, especially now since it doesn't matter. Everybody's going to buy everything and they get paid whether they buy it or not. But I'm unexcited about it. Just same thing, a bunch of multiple man matches on TV to get into a goddamn multiple man match. And that's where we've seen that before. It's the same old song, but with a different meaning since you've been gone.
All right, well, that
was the answer to your question.
Oh, is that
No, it wasn't.
Come on.
Because then we had to sit through Cody and fucking Cena, no, wait, first out. I'm sorry. In order here, the last 30 minutes of the show was another promo. They had a promo so long they had to take a commercial break in the middle of the fucking promo. So Cody's out first there forever, and then introduces Yeet. And it had already been going so long, they had to take a break during the fucking entrance. And then they came back and they were milking the Yeets, and then they brought the music down, and then Jesus started back up, and they played the music again. And by the time that John Cena's music started playing, they had 7 minutes on the fucking air, and he spoke 2 minutes later when they had 5 minutes on the air. And by then they say a couple of things to each other, and Cena introduces Logan Paul, who has an entrance. And there were 3 minutes on the air. And Logan Paul does a good heel promo, but everybody's just standing. The fans were chanting, "Shut the fuck up." And yes, at him, but that's the way I felt. And just when Logan Paul's about to say something pithy to Jey Uso, my DVR froze. And I understand that they exchanged a flurry of their various moves about 2 or 3 times after talking about it for 30 minutes, and then everybody left. But Brian, is that worth 3 hours of seriously? How devoted do you have to be to sit there on any night of the week for 3 hours to get that out of it?
What do you think of the news that they're not going back to 2 hours? Remember, we originally told us.
Oh, goddamn, that's right. Yes. Oh, you son of a bitch.
Smackdown was always 2 hours.
I hate you.
They went to 3 hours at the beginning of the year when they went to USA. We were told in the summer, they would be going back to 2 hours. Now they're announcing that,
yes,
probably because of the advertising revenue, they're not doing that.
Yeah, I know. I just heard that. You just reminded me of it. Because I just heard that, and now I hate you too. Much like every other Friday of my life that actually, I don't watch it on Friday because you can't watch it live. Jesus H. Christ. If you're accused of terrorism, they would tie you down and just make you watch the in-between travelogue and spots and commercials and merchandise. Sputnik Monroe would say, the rags, the paper, and the pens that they're selling you to get to anything. That was Smackdown.
Oh boy, another winner.
That was my thoughts.
Another winner from the WWE, those wonderful guys behind WWE Smackdown there.
But that is why that we go into more detail sometimes, because yes, something's happening in AEW in the same way that something happens when a railroad trestle collapses and a train goes off the fucking precipice. But over on the other side of the street, it's like a goddamn television version of Soma's.
Well, Jim, WWE seems to have it down. They are selling lots of tickets, making lots of money, charging more than ever before.
A fortune.
It's becoming a bigger and bigger story, it seems like, all the time. Yet, everyone could still use a little help selling. Everyone could use the right person, the right partner online to make sure you get your products into or in front of the right eyes.
Or sometimes into the proper people.
Into the eyes.
On what you're manufacturing.
The eyes. We're speaking about the eyes.
Well, you don't want to stick it in somebody's eye. You can put somebody's eye out with stuff like that.
Once again, we are professional, and professionally speaking, everyone can use some help with their online commerce, and Shopify is here for you.
Well, yes, Brian. And again, depending on what you're manufacturing, it may very well be that this item is going to go in the consumer. So but wherever, whether it's in you, on you, or in your periphery, the thing about it is, folks, you want to make some money. You want money, and you want it now. Money, 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 money. That makes the world go round. Let's say you got a dream. Let's say you've got You've got aspirations. I'm not talking about the kinds you need to take oxygen for. I'm talking about the dreams and the hopes of being a big business typhoon. And you need a commerce platform, and you need a website, and you need help with product inventory and payments and analytics. You need the business people to help you run your dream to turn it into a reality. And that's where Shopify is your one-stop shop. Now, if you do not have a brick and mortar Shopify store in your location, I believe they're now in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and Fresno, I believe, but you can just go to Shopify.com because that's where you're going to hear that type of thing come into your life. The cash register signifying you're going to make some money, folks, because Shopify is the commerce platform behind 10% of all the e-commerce in the United States. They're the dark overlords behind it and growing. And they give you help with hundreds of beautiful, ready-to-go templates to express your brand and style. You don't have to learn how to do all this code stuff. Remember, Brian, the code people will send people to stay in your walls and spy on you. So you can bypass all this stuff.
That was never confirmed, but let's get back to our friends at Shopify. They power our online store, all our great merch, our t-shirts, ArcadianVanguard.com. They can power the listeners as well.
Yes, and there have been some reports of people in chimneys. But you can also spread your brand's word with the built-in marketing and tools that they have to find and keep new customers for you. And, of course, Brian, the iconic purple Shop Pay button that is used by millions of businesses around the world. It's an iconic purple. As a matter of fact, did it not win a legal battle with Barney the dinosaur that now that Barney has to change colors? You didn't hear about that.
I have not even seen Barney.
Legal review.
Is Barney still a thing in society? I have not heard or seen Barney.
Well, he's a dinosaur. Goddamn, they live forever. You don't ever hear about dinosaurs becoming extinct. Yeah. So Shopify, folks, has the best converting checkout on the planet. Your customers already love it because they're already slaves to it. Everybody's getting all their necessity, their food and sustenance from Shopify now to begin with anyway. So they're already there. They're on the hook. Now you can bilk these people for everything they've got, every last drop, folks. And if you want a $1 a month trial period to see what Shopify can do for you, then we can fix it up for you. All you do is you go to Shopify.com/JCE, Shopify.com/JCE. It's a $1 a month trial period, and you'll make $1 back in the twinkling of a bell or a ding. Yeah, bell. A ring-a-dee-ding-dong thing. Shopify.com/JCE will make you money after the initial investment of your $1.
That's right. As I said before, they power our online store. They can power yours. They're a friend of ours. Become friends with Shopify. One more time, Jim, that promo code and link.
That's right. They've raised our business up. They could up yours. Shopify.com/JCE.
Well, Jim, I think it was just a few weeks back we talked about a round of WWE releases that had happened and what the future of those wrestlers would be, and people were surprised over the last few days, a few more releases, and I guess the timing of it really surprised people, but a lot of people were also surprised by the outcry on social media. Let's talk about it. The first one, R-Truth. R-Truth, Ron Killings being released by WWE.
Well, and in actuality, release is technically not the right term. He's not being renewed. His contract is up. Whereas I think the other folks, they were at a period in where their out clause could be exercised or whatever for the WWE office. But with R-Truth, here's the thing. I understand why they wouldn't want to sign a 53-year-old guy to a 2 or 3 year contract, a guy that they've done marginally nothing with for quite a while. except for right now. And even still for right now, let's say you don't want to go to him and say, okay, R-Truth, this has been great. So we want you to wrestle for us for 3 more years. You're 53 years old. You might not want to do that, but why? Since they did this, and it's a perfect time to do it, not only because apparently they're losing R-Truth, but they know they're losing Cena. And we said this Saturday night's main event, it was a good little TV match, and it fit the story that they've told for a while on and off, blah, blah, blah. But he was the number 1 T-shirt seller of the week from one report that I saw. And why wouldn't you go to him and say, okay, look, we don't want to sign you for however much money you've been making per year for 3 more years, but we just did this thing and you're selling merchandise and the people like you more now than they have in a while. It's one of those things that happens. So let's sign you to a lesser contract and don't work as much. We still doing the merchandise, show up on Raw every couple weeks. So work 25 times a year, we'll pay you several $100,000. And you're still with the company and we'll still do whatever the fuck and we'll sell T-shirts. And we'll see how it goes. In a year, maybe you've made enough money on T-shirts, you don't give a fuck.
I have the tweet here that Ron Killings sent out June 1st, 11:12 a.m. I'm sorry to inform you all, I just got released from WWE. I want to thank WWE for the ride, but mostly I want to thank each and every one of you who was along for the ride. Thank you for all the love, support, and appreciation you have given me over the years. Thank you.
And again, he's even saying, I was released. It's different. They didn't renew you.
And he put that out Sunday morning, and it caused a public outcry. I mean, as much as you're going to get from wrestling fans of social media, but I was shocked how many people were upset about this. Again, I don't necessarily agree with this person or that person deserves a job for life, but you did see a lot of that. Like, if there's anyone who deserves a job for life, it's him. You even started seeing, this would have never happened under Vince. Vince would have never done this. Because
what?
Yeah, you started seeing some of that. Again, people losing their minds.
Vince got up on the wrong side of the fucking bed and decided to fire people sometimes. But no, see, this is, if R-Truth had been involved in the previous round of cuts before they shot the angle for the thing with Cena, nobody would have been surprised, would they? Because he just every once in a while on TV in a comedy thing and a blah, blah, blah. But because of that, now that he's been focused on for a few weeks, that's where people were like, oh shit. But that shows the problem with is sometimes at the top, I don't know where or how far up the decision went, but the non-wrestling people that are more in charge of, contracts or talent budgets or whatever, not maybe realizing, well, there's this guy got hot all of a sudden. We might not be able to stretch it out 3 more years, but we can do something right now. Let's go back and let's modify that. Let's figure out a way to not do this right now. Or maybe, Tony Khan is like, oh shit. If they let R-Truth go, I'll give him $3 million a year. And R-Truth is like, okay, fine. And he just,
And that way they did it very different than Tony. And again, we should say that we don't know whose decision this was. We don't know if this was TKO saying cut overhead, let alone cut overhead, make it him, or if it was Triple H saying, this is the guy I'm willing to get rid of from my roster. I think a lot of people are saying this is Triple H's decision. But we don't know, again, if that comes from the top. Because even though they're making more money than ever before, they're also still cutting jobs, not just wrestlers, but people in the office of all these companies they own now.
Well, that's why I'm saying if they were reticent to sign at even at whatever he might have been making, because he's been there a long time, maybe they've raised him up into, I can't imagine it'd be Brown strongman level, but you know what I mean. But okay, take a little less, work a lot less, and let's keep the merchandise going. And you're coasting now in your 50s, but maybe he's thinking, or maybe he knows, who knows, that Tony Khan will give me whatever I want. I won't argue with them. They don't want to renew me. Fine. I'll be right over here.
And we'll talk about that in a second. The idea, should Tony Khan sign him just because of how much TV he's been getting recently and everything else. But, Mariah May has apparently been removed from the roster officially now. People expect her in WWE. She's been off TV for months because Tony expected her to go to WWE. Is this WWE's way of doing the opposite of that? I mean, Ron Killings may not have known he was going to be released, but I doubt it was a spur-of-the-moment decision. They knew he was going to be released. Let's get the most out of him that we can.
Yeah.
And then just get him off TV, get him out of the company, I guess. But it's obviously the opposite of what Tony Khan's done. Are they wrong for trying to maximize something on the way out? Should they stop what they're doing? The Billy Graham rule? Hey, something else is happening here. Let's try to do this instead of a pre-planned thing. What do you think?
No, obviously, if they weren't going to renew Ron Killings, then the thing would be to get something out of him on the way out. And well, Cena's leaving too, but we could do this thing. We got time, blah, blah, blah. It's not a revolutionary thing. And at the same time, they would honestly realize in the WWE office that even if they put Ron Killings on television, getting beat by John Cena and then, thrown off the fucking bridge or whatever, it's not like handing Tony Khan a game changer, for fuck's sake. It's not like if Tony went out and signed R-Truth tomorrow and he came in as, are no lies. I don't know what, they've got trademarked.
Ron Killings, probably.
Ron Killings, who tells no lies. It would get a huge pop from the audience they already have. And that's not disparaging R-Truth, but he is not a person who could bring, on the strength of his own personality, hundreds of thousands of people to the show, to the viewership of the show, to make a difference in the numbers, whatever the case. The people that already are watching that show would love, they hired R-Truth because those bad men over there fired him because he's only been there for 20 years. But then he'd be doing the same shit that everybody else is with the same people that everybody else is. The same thing happened to him that everybody else has.
I guess that's the thing. If they signed Ron Killings, do they bring him in and let him do the kind of comedy stuff he's been doing in WWE? Is that what you'd want? And is that what he would do?
Well, and I'll be honest, for comedy, if you're going to do comedy, he's the best one at it because you almost find yourself being sucked into that this guy could literally be that fucking stupid, right? He does it so well. But
or he goes to TNA, or he goes to TNA.
I think TNA would probably be better for him because he'd be a bigger fish in a smaller pond. But at the same time, Tony's predilection for signing up somebody that's the current darling of the internet. And Tony's got as he said himself, a bigger checkbook. But that's the thing. It's not horrible of the WWE to let a guy go that's in his 50s that has been there for literally nearly 20 years, I think. Having said that, the timing was so odd because he's actually more important now, temporarily, just off of this, but then he more visible, more popular, more over whatever than he has been for the last several years, right at this time. Because as I said, if they'd done it, 6 months ago, nobody would have thought anything about it.
Well, Jim, on the heels of the news that R-Truth was leaving WWE, came another tweet. I'll read this to you. This was sent out by Carlito. My contract is up in 2 weeks. It will not be renewed. On top of that, WWE is demanding I pay back the money they paid me for apparently, quote, stealing money from the company. I've had my lawyers look into it, and after reviewing my footage on Netflix for the past months, they suggested I pay them back the money. All jokes aside, gracias WWE, and especially the WWE Universe. Los quiero mucho. P.S. I'll appear again in another 13 years. Dios Milos Bendiga. So Carlito,
I'm not sure what some of those things mean.
They say he says here that he has been released. His contract is up his contract's up in 2 weeks. It won't be renewed. He wasn't on Raw the next day, so I guess maybe the 2 weeks went into effect early.
Yeah. Well, because then here's the thing: once they've told a guy he's released, he generally won't be on television again, even if the contract is up in 2 weeks or whatever. Because in the past, a time or two, somebody has, suddenly become injured and they had to pay more money, But with Carlito, and by the way, great sense of humor from Carlito, take off on an old Ernie Ladd fucking line. He's had a nice, 2-year run since he came back on the Puerto Rico pay-per-view, and he looked in better shape than half the guys on the roster. And they signed him and had him do the thing in the Judgment Day. They've never pushed him like a fearsome singles competitor on his own, but he was a valuable member of the cog in the wheel of the group and the Judgment Day. And, he's looked good. And when he's had to work, he's, as we've mentioned a couple times, done better than most of the fucking guys that have been on the roster for a while, but are much younger. But he's almost 52. So I don't mean 52, the number, but almost 50 also, I think. So it's not really a surprise. And I don't know that he expected, because he's taking it with such good humor. I don't think he thought it was going to be a longer term thing. He was probably like, what? You're going to bring me back, when he heard about it?
He's actually 46. He's my age.
See, they're almost 50. It's all downhill from here.
I have to say, I didn't expect much, but I enjoyed him in the Judgment Day. He actually is a character who really didn't do anything. They barely gave him anything to do. He was one of the more enjoyable parts of the Judgment Day segment.
Yes.
I really have to say. So, I'm not surprised, but I did enjoy him on this run. I guess I'm a little surprised that they decided, because they're still doing all this stuff with Judgment Day, to just drop Carlito, but I guess that's what they've done.
What is the current local wrestling scene like in Puerto Rico? Because the hurricane and then the pandemic and the blah, blah, blah is, he's obviously in the royal family down there, but do they have a company there these days? Does he have options to go home and work if he wants?
I'm sure there's something. I just don't know if they actually draw or make money right now at this point in 2025. I know we have some listeners down there, though, so anyone who is actively going to shows in Puerto Rico and knows what's up, get in touch with us. Let us know.
Yeah. What is going on? And is because you never hear anything anymore about guys. Oh, so-and-so's in Puerto Rico. Well, you don't hear that anymore.
Well, Carlito, Caribbean cool, leaving the Judgment Day. I, for one, will miss him on this show. I enjoyed this run. One last one here, Jim. Valhalla has announced she has left WWE.
Well, I didn't know she was still there.
Valhalla was coming. Now I guess she's going.
Yeah, Valhalla is coming. Valhalla is here. Valhalla is gone.
Well, that's the roster update, Jim. And of course, when it comes to rosters of recording artists that the record labels have, when it comes to podcast rosters, it really doesn't matter who's on the roster. You have to figure out how you're going to hear it. How are you going to listen to all this great sound? The way go, please help, save,
please
tag,
because hot tag, because that is an age-old question, Brian. If a podcast plays in the middle of the forest, but you can't hear it, was it still any good? You've heard that question asked 1,000,000 times, haven't you?
I don't know about 1,000,000, but maybe a few thousand.
Maybe a few thousand. Or if you're out in the woods with Mercedes Moon and you can't find your way out, how you going to hear anything? Because all you can hear is those goddamn birds chirping. Folks, if you go out in the woods, or even if you stay home and bury your head in the sand, Raycon's everyday earbuds are the perfect summer accessory. Let's say you're going hard at the gym. Let's not, on second thought. That sounds strenuous. Let's say you're enjoying the sun. Well, actually, that can lead to skin problems. Let's say you're taking those work calls outside. Why would you want to take a work call outside where people could just overhear or eavesdrop on you? How about jamming out while barbecuing to your favorite tunes? Now, there's something we want to do. Well, you can enjoy premium audio, folks, right wherever you go in front of that barbecue. Don't lean over too closely because the earbuds will melt along with your brain. But the Raycon Everyday Earbuds, whether you want to listen to a podcast or music or even take phone calls, you got them covered with the Raycon quick charge function. You plug it in for 10 minutes and you get 90 minutes of battery. And they've got the active noise cancellation, so that way you can't hear your significant other browbeating you at that barbecue because you're not doing the meat the right way. Because you're a meat master. You know you are. And Raycon started just half the price the other premium. I'm talking to the meat masters out there that are going to be standing over that barbecue this summer with the Raycon Everyday Earbuds in their ears. They're going to be grilling the meat, and they're going to be listening to the tunes, and they're going to be hopping and bopping and jamming out. And now when you're jamming out, if you've got a fork in your hand, don't jam out too. You'll poke your eye out with that thing. And the Raycon Everydayer, that's who I'm talking to, those people, Brian.
They're running around with utensils and...
running around with poking people's eyes out with forks and barbecues.
Don't stick anything anywhere, but put those Raycon earbuds in your ear and listen to the fine sounds that you can be hearing from your favorite songs, your favorite artists, your favorite podcasts. Jim, we have a great spirit going. Let's keep it up.
Yes. You know, sometimes you don't just want to stand there out in the backyard and listen to the traffic or listen to the baby crying or the dog next door howling. You want to block all that out. That's why you stick the Raycons in your ears instead of the fork in your eye. Because a Raycon in your ear is better than a poke in the eye with a sharp fork, folks. That's actually their new catchphrase for the 2025 campaign.
Nope.
And if you're not loving your Raycons for any reason, they offer a 30-day happiness guarantee return policy, no questions asked, just no barbecue sauce on the Raycons. If you return them, then they won't be happy and they won't make you happy. But right now, a little bit of salt and pepper, you know, is a residual, some dry rub, that may happen, but no sauce. Go to Buy Raycon, BUYRAYCON, buyraycon.com/JCE right now, this very second, and you're going to get 15% off their best-selling everyday earbuds, 15% off. Buyraycon.com/JCE. These things are already cheaper than the big name brands with the same premium audio quality, but now you get 15% off of that.
That's right. It's a great deal. It's a great earbud for great sounds.
Sauceless.
That's right. Jim, one more time. You've thrown me off, but let's get to the sauce. Let's get away from the sauce and get to the meat of the matter. Raycon.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
What's that promo code?
Buyraycon.com/JCE. Sauce not allowed.
All right. We're having a good time here today. So let's ruin that. Jim, Monday Night Raw transpired last night as we are recording. A lot of people love it. A lot of people get mad when I don't thoroughly review it. I'm not crazy about the show right now. I'm not really happy with WWE right now. I'm not enjoying it as much. But let's talk about last night's Raw and let's get your thoughts on it.
Well, this was a show where there was actually maybe 20 minutes or so of stuff to watch. They sprinkled it out through the program. Basically, it's the main event angle with Punk and Sammy and Jay and Seth and Bronson and Braun and Paul and Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. That's what, at least on this show, instead of just teasing something at the start and then paying it off at the end and you having to sit through 2.5 hours in the middle, they actually kept it interconnected with some other things through the course of the evening. So I like that. But again, otherwise, you got these, 6 guys, and that's the thing that you're watching for, and the rest of it's in the middle. And a lot of it is the talking of the thing. But they started out with Punk's promo, and he's over, and they chanted and talking about going to Money in the Bank because there's a qualifier later on tonight. And hey, with Jay, it wouldn't be personal, it'd just be business. But with Cena, who sold his soul to a bald fraud goof, just any chance that Punk gets to remind The Rock that he's a bald fraud goof, even when it obviously didn't really need to go there, but he just wanted to remind everybody. So he's going to get Cena, and then Sammy's music played, and Sammy came out, of course, as the Henry Kissinger of this whole company, where he's always trying to get everybody together and the common cause and see the big deal. And it's good to hear that Punk is full of confidence because Paulie's bunch took him out of Money in the Bank. But Punk, you got to win tonight. Don't think about them. Don't worry about me. Stay focused. We all need you to win tonight, or this place will be unrecognizable as Seth is champion. Why? It'll be almost as bad as it was when he was champion a year and a half ago. See, this was a little, it's like they're all in dire straits because it's almost like Donald Trump would be elected president of the United States or some kind of dire consequence like that if Seth would be the world champion again. But it's for the story. So they did that and set that up, and Sammy's rooting for Punk, and Punk's got Sammy's back, and they're all just happy. And then, Brian, for an extended period of time, every time that I'm on this Netflix with no on-screen fast forward, that they would go to a break or a spot or whatever, I said, well, let me just skip ahead 4 or 5 minutes to get. And you end up in a commercial, in a pre-tape, in a merchandise spot, in a travel log, in a drone shot. They had a 3-way Money in the Bank qualifier with Stephanie and Ivy and Liv. And Finn and JD wrestled the War Vikings. And they had a drone shot of New Jersey. And by then we were, again, an hour into this program. And then we get to see Sammy and Jay again. It's Yeet Mania. And they have a tag team match with the Bronze, Reed and Breaker. And that'd be a great tag team match because I like all those guys. That Jay is a popular person, but his work, But they go to break in 2 minutes and they come back. They get some heat on Sammy. And a kind of a blah tag. And then as soon as, the babyface comeback starts again, there's Seth out there and does the curb stomp on Jay on the floor for the disqualification. But as they were going to kill Sammy, Punk came out with a chair and saved the day. And apparently we're being led to believe that Seth thinks the plan is right. They go, we got him right where we want him. And almost nothing happened again. I don't mean to be overstating this, but
you're not.
There was a nice drone shot of Atlanta. There's a nice drone shot of Tulsa.
They got drones everywhere. What the hell? What is going on with WWE? They have like a drone army.
Well, they're getting money from the fucking city governments. The drone shot of Los Angeles, I think they should have paid extra for that. That was extra nice with the palm trees. Rochelle wrestled Carrie Sane. Well, 1 foot, 75-pound weight difference. And then we got to the next Money to Bank qualifier. El Chado Gable Americano against AJ Styles against CM Punk. And of course, you think the Punk would be going on to Money in the Bank. And they had a 3-way match, and it was a 3-way, but it wasn't stupid and silly like usual because all three have some pride in their their work. It was nice wrestling. It kept it going, and they did a complicated back and forth finish. Everybody was there for, and a number of false finishes. But finally, Punk hits the go to sleep on Gable and covers him, and Braun pulls him out, and they get on Punk, and here comes Sammy and Jay, and they have a big fight, and AJ dives on everybody and then springboards into the ring on Gable, but Gable had loaded his mask. Boom, met him with the headbutt. 1, 2, 3. And it was so Gable's got now the big stars are not in Money in the Bank, so they could have the actual match that's going to draw the money to the Money in the Bank, apparently.
If they're going to have the match, nothing's been announced.
If they're going to have the match, but Punk then jumped Braun. Seth and Punk fought. Braun speared Punk. Reed stopped Sammy. Seth stomped both of them. Jay came back in, super kicked everybody, but Braun speared him and Seth stomped him. And then Reed hit Jay with the splash off the top rope twice. So that's some nice Mid-South wrestling going on there at the finish. And so out of 3 hours, you got 20 minutes. And the rest of it is drone shots of downtown fucking Oshkosh. That was Raw.
Yeah, look, the people there really seem to like it. And people watching at home seem to like it and like the commentary and everything. It's just really an unenjoyable show for me right now. Not that SmackDown's any better. SmackDown has not been. SmackDown somehow became the worst show, yet also unwatchable to me right now. No, I don't want to see either one of them, but SmackDown I want to see less than Raw right now.
Well, but and again, for the people who may have come into the theater late, who may not have heard what I said when we talked about SmackDown earlier, it's not that in most cases they're doing anything grossly unprofessional or nonsensical or illogical or unnecessarily dangerous, or just, they haven't built any fake walls yet or whatever. For the most part, every once in a while somebody still gets dropped on their head, as we saw, but it takes forever for anything to happen. And most of the matches are either with the underneath guys when you want to see the top guys interact, or the top guys that we get a minute and a half to break and come back and do the DQ. And over on the other side is AEW, where you cannot stop the carnage for a second to even count the fucking bodies. So it is quite a choice, but in all honesty, you see which one is making the most money, drawing the most money. The fucking WWE that has the stars and is giving them just the very bare minimum they need to keep them coming back. And we'll see where that line is as the prices go up and the amount of wrestling goes down. We'll see where they hit the tipping point.
To go to something we talked about previously, I asked you about AEW. And again, not even looking at who's on their roster, how they present it. It's a number 2. It's competition. WWE's aggressively trying to fuck with them. And I said, AEW should use the ticket price difference as something for positive marketing and promotion. Look at how much they charge. Look at how much we charge. I actually think they should use this too. Again, not to say we like all we see, but WWE on Raw and SmackDown gives you this much time of action. AEW gives you this much time of action. Like, they should really push the us versus them thing. Start doing it right now, because it works and the divide is happening. And I think it's a smart thing. It's the kind of thing that gets people to want to rally behind AEW or really rally behind any kind of competition.
You know what? It's like the fancy French restaurant that charges high prices and the portions are very tiny. It tastes delicious, but there's almost nothing there and it'll break you. Whereas across the street at the Greasy Spoon, you got a 50-50 chance of getting ptomaine, but you could eat all you want.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're not even, if you're just like, hey, we're here, come see us, it's one thing. If it's, you can go get that filet mignon over there, or for us, $5 gets you in the door, all you can eat burgers, free drinks.
Bring the family dog. We'll feed the dog too. Bring the pigs. We'll slop them. We'll eat everything.
But again, notwithstanding AEW's booking, roster, whatever, as a competitor to WWE, should they be using these things publicly to tell the wrestling fans who aren't on Twitter all day, the people who are actually going to buy tickets in these different towns?
Well, yeah, in all honesty, you've got to be careful because that does open you up to the backlash of the jokes of, yeah, of course you don't charge any money. It's not worth anything. And, and you don't want to market yourself actively as the Walmart of the wrestling industry. But if you can, as you said, turn it around and hey, we're reasonable. We're in line with other major sports and entertainment. These guys are price gouging or, whatever, or the elitists at the WWE think that everybody could afford $2,000 to take Junior to his first fucking Raw taping or whatever. You could probably get some mileage with that, but they're not. The whole AEW organization is not long on subtlety and sticking to a talking point. They got to slap you in the face with a handful of shit and they're all over the page. So I'm not sure what it would turn into if they tried to do it.
Well, they got to do something. And what they're doing right now is holding the line. But again, if you want to fuck back with the person fucking with you got to do something eventually. And I think those may be effective things because it's a reality, but I don't think TKO wants people just nonstop talking about how they're pricing everyone out. They want it to happen. They don't want the conversation.
Yeah, they don't want people to acknowledge it in public. They just want to do it and get away with it.
Well, Jim, I have a couple of emails here before we get to the roster. I wanted to ask you about this one because it made me laugh. This was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Brian in Wirral, England. Hope you guys are well. I have a 3-part question for Jim in relation to Flesh Gordon, who had several tryout matches in the WWE back in the early 2000s.
Did he say Flesh Gordon?
That's what he said. Was Jim ever aware of this guy in WWE developmental? Did he spend time in OVW? Have you seen his dark match on SmackDown versus Sin Bodhi, among other matches? Thank you. Do you remember a wrestler named... my first thought was he's confusing Flesh with Flash, but then I was like, did Flash Flanagan do that?
No. And there was a Flesh Gordon movie that was, I think, in the late 70s. It was when they were still shooting porn on 35 millimeter. It was a big budget.
Oh my God.
Flash Gordon takeoff.
There is a wrestler named Flesh Gordon.
Yeah. Okay.
Flesh Gordon.
I'm afraid to ask what his gimmick is.
Well, Flesh Gordon, who is a French wrestler. His real name is Gerard Hervé. He has been a dominant fan favorite.
Is he a brother of Jason Hervé?
he's been a... Why did that get me? He's been a dominant fan favorite in France since the 1980s when his matches began airing on national television.
Since the 1980s? How old is this fucking guy?
He was born June of 53. He's 71 now.
Jesus Christ, did this guy just asking if we was in OVW or something? What did he say?
In the early 2000s, let me see if it says anything here about WWE. Having practiced boxing from the age of 14 as well as pancration, in the 1970s he went to Mexico and discovered Lucha Libre. He started wrestling as Super Fleche. By 1979, he returned home and made his debut on French TV wrestling, initially under his real name, but soon adopting the Flesh Gordon identity. He wrestled for the FFCP, regularly teaming with Walter Boards.
If he's okay with Walter, he's okay with me.
With whom he held the FFCP French Tag Team Championship. Later in the decade, he would team with Prince Zeffy. He became a regular on Eurosport's New Catch program, also appearing in Wales for Welsh channel S4C's Reslow Wrestling Show, and home video releases by German CWA. Now, I know them.
The point is, if this guy was born in 1953, how old was he? Did they think he was going to be in OVW or get a tryout or be in developmental or whatever the fuck? And he was in his 50s?
He became the European champion in 1988, the World Light Heavyweight champion in 92, and then created a wrestling school. In 95, the Belgian TV show Striptease devoted an episode to him entitled Flesh Gordon and the Fireman. He's been wrestling for French wrestling promotion Wrestling Stars since its creation in 2001 and holds the position of National Technical Director. So you don't remember Flesh Gordon is what you're saying?
No, I do not remember old Fleshy.
If I Google Flesh Gordon...
Is he still wrestling or is he just a technical director?
Also, it says here, Flesh Gordon is a 1974 American superhero sex comedy, which is a spoof of the Universal Pictures Flash Gordon serial films of the 30s. All right, I have not seen that smut. I'll see if we can find a copy of that. But no knowledge of Flesh Gordon. What do you think of the name Flesh Gordon?
Well, for a porn movie, I think it's pretty fucking neat. For a wrestler, not so much, I don't think. Because again, how would you go out and portray that? You'd be dressed up as a space traveler, except that you're fucking thrusting your dick in people's face? I don't know what. Flesh Gordon.
Well, Jim, our next email was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com. This is from Daniel. Hello, Jim and Brian. I'm wondering if either of you know the first heel commentator in pro wrestling or when the concept originated. Besides Lawler, Ventura, and Heenan, I don't think it works well. People aren't interested in what happens next week when the commentator's explaining how much the babyface deserved to be beaten with a baseball bat by 12 guys. Triple H owes much of his success to Jim Ross, who sold the outrage and disgust over the actions of the cerebral assassin. So, Jim, heel commentators, who was the first, and what do you think of the concept overall? Something you've done.
Well, first of all, who was the first? Who was the first anything, really? And what do you count? Because it's a tradition in TV studio wrestling in many, if not all of the territories, going back a long time, that every so often you'd have a guy sit in on commentary on a match involving somebody that he was going to be facing. If it was a heel, then he was doing heel commentary. And they would work shit off of that. And Eddie Graham had guys do commentary a lot on Florida television, and that's what Watts did the same thing in Mid-South. As far as a regular weekly heel of opinionated broadcaster, people think that Jesse was the first, but Piper was technically doing it in Atlanta in, what was that, 81, well before, was it 81 or 82?
He was definitely doing it in 82. He may have started at the end of 81, I'm not sure. But he was definitely doing it in 82.
And while he was noted as a heel when he started, and he would take up for the heels, he didn't pour it on like he was an active wrestler, because they made him strictly an announcer. And then when he started getting into the fucking angles, that's when, he not only was more heelish, but then also when later on when he switched babyface. But can you think of anybody that was regular before that? Because most of the time in the territory days, you didn't want to put one of your talent roster on the announce desk every week for the entire show. People got tired of them, it burned them out, whatever. But you'd always have the manager sit in every once in a while, or another top guy. So I think maybe was Roddy the first time they used a heel point of view as the regular color guy every week.
I think so, because before that, there had only been really retired baby faces in those kind of roles, whether it was Antonio Rocca or, LA, they used to have Jules Strongbow doing the interviews backstage. but it was never really like a Lord Leighton. You know, it was never, I shouldn't say never. George Cannon was a heel, and then he became a commentator for his promotion, but that was his promotion. But typically it was a retired babyface who you'd see as a commentator, not necessarily an active babyface.
And so that answers the question of who was the first. And then when Jesse got over doing it, and it was at the same time that the business was an all-around hot period, then other people started taking it and running with it. And that's why at one point in time I did it, or Bobby Heenan did it, or Paul Lee did it, or Terry Funk did it, or on and on and on and on and on. Michael Hayes. So that's, but before it was always thought that your announcers need to play it straight. And because they're the salesman of your product, you don't want them to be, just full of shit because they're your salesman. But in the early days, especially with Piper and Jesse early on and et cetera, and even me and Heenan, the heel guy would back up and try to be more of an announcer than a talent, and constantly putting themselves over whoever they're affiliated with, and take more of a broader look like, okay, I'm going to be sympathetic to the heels, but I'm kind of going to be more of an announcer. Those are the ones that had better success at it, and the ones you got tired of quicker are the ones that just went out and did their same shit. Because as we mentioned, sometimes entertaining promo guys don't translate to entertaining commentators.
Well, Jim, as we get ready to go to the main event, the AEW roster review from K on, let's briefly, and there's no other way to do this, go over the pay-per-view card this coming weekend, premium live event, Money in the Bank 2025, the 16th annual Money in the Bank pay-per-view event from the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California.
And by the way, I remember where if you had come to Vince McMahon with, here's the pay-per-view card, and you had like 2 multiple person matches and a couple more, and where's the rest of it? And this is what they're getting away with now, right?
Well, here's the card, and make sure you have your clock out for this event. I'd like to know how much time is in between these matches. A last chance match for the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship. Lyra Valkyria, the champion, versus Becky Lynch. Here are the stipulations. If Lynch loses, she can no longer challenge for the title for as long as Valkyria is champion. If Valkyria loses, she will be forced to raise Lynch's hand and acknowledge Lynch as the better woman. Otherwise known as the last chance match.
Otherwise known as, you goddamn just did the job, so go ahead and raise her hand. I mean, this could go either way, because obviously Becky Lynch is a far bigger star than old Lyric, but they're also friends, and Becky's doing this to try to get her over. It ain't going to work, but I wouldn't be surprised, because Becky doesn't need the women's Intercontinental title if they don't do that. Lyric wins and Becky can't challenge for it until somebody else wins it, and then everything's fine. Or maybe they'll go with some heat and make Lyric raise her hand, and then Becky will turn around and kick the shit out of her. I don't know. And to paraphrase an old Abbott and Costello routine, I don't care.
If Abbott and Costello saw the match, he might yell, "Chick!" But, Jim,
oh, chick.
Speaking of the chicks here, no, going back to this match here, Jim, Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch, last chance match. In terms of the Money in the Bank winner, do they only get the challenge for a world title, or is this title also included? They could challenge for the Intercontinental title.
Well, yes, because they've said, somebody on the guys' side just said, I could challenge you for something or other. So theoretically, they can challenge for any title. They've established that.
Let's now go, Jim, to the Money in the Bank matches. The men's Money in the Bank ladder match for a men's championship match contract. Solo Sikoa versus LA Knight versus Penta versus Seth Rollins versus Andrade versus El Grande Americano.
Oh boy. And it would have been nice if they'd have had more of the main event guys in the big Money in the Bank men's match, but then they would have to stick a bunch of their stars in there that they wouldn't be winning. Obviously Penta ain't going to win the thing, although I'll enjoy seeing him in the ring with Gable again. Maybe Gable has learned the word receipt. But Andrade, obviously, no. Gable, no. Penta, no. LA Knight, they're teasing us. And something's going to happen probably with Solo and the rest of his estranged family. Seth has got to win this, does he not? He's the leader of the new top heel faction with Paul, with the two Bronze. They look like the modern incarnation of a Horseman type group. I don't see Seth not winning this thing, do you?
Well, it seems obvious, but you know, they do also have to find a way to get Punk on this card. And Punk owes Seth one from Monday. If Punk costs Seth Money in the Bank when it's clear that he's going to win, I guess Braun and Bronson are distracted by Sammy or who else, I don't know. And Punk does something that costs Seth that, it furthers their feud because technically they don't need, neither one of them need a belt. And again, it goes into the whole one screwed the other one, it's natural. But then it becomes who wins.
Well, yeah, because if there were more main event guys in this mix, you'd say, okay, but who do we want to see of these other five get a title shot?
Yeah, and of those five, who would use that title shot and actually win the title? So we'll see. Seth Rollins seems like he'd be the pick, but also I think he probably has to get fucked over in some way on the card. But who knows? Maybe they'll make Andrade in one night. Jim, the women's Money in the Bank ladder match for a women's championship match contract. Alexa Bliss versus Roxanne Perez versus Rhea Ripley versus Julia versus Naomi versus Stephanie Vaquer.
Oh boy! Well, I mean, again, obviously, if we're going on star power, Rhea is as over as all five other young ladies combined. But they might want to do something with Naomi because of her and Bianca. Naomi's a vicious heel now. I mean, you know, the internet crowd is just a buzz over Stephanie and Julia. But are they going to draw any money?
Are you surprised they got brought up and I kind of incorporated into the main mix so quickly?
Yeah.
I mean, they're good. And I think Stephanie Vaquer is very good, but still, usually they keep those people in NXT for a while. And I don't know who else has gone to NXT and come up this quickly.
Yeah, I see. I'm seeing they can wrestle. I'm not seeing any fireball personalities or incredible promos or whatever, but I mean, besides, again, Rhea is the natural choice because she's the biggest star, but they've got Naomi in a program with Bianca. Do you see, you know, any of the other girls challenging for the world title in any kind of money match? You know, say, hard to stand up to Rhea. I think she ought to just beat the other five up and call it a day.
Rhea does need a win at some point soon. I feel like we've seen her on the losing end a lot for someone who has to stay over. Needs to stay over. She's good. Jim, the final match, the fourth match. A tag team match. Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso versus John Cena and Logan Paul.
And I guess you would normally say, well, here's the big match where it's, you know, Bret Hart and somebody against The Undertaker and some or whatever. And that's a bigger draw than the Money in the Bank matches. But they just announced this like last week. So I think they're just saying, fuck it, wherever we're at is paying us a bunch of money and the thing's sold out because the fans will buy the tickets no matter what we charge. And we're getting paid the rights fee for this broadcast, whether anybody buys pay-per-view or not. So fuck it. 4 matches and here they are. And with the tag match, one would think that this would be Cody's opportunity to do something important and either beat somebody or show some life. But we will see.
Well, that's the premium live event from the Intuit, what is it, the Intuit Dome? It is a dome! How many seats are there in the Intuit Dome? Hold on. Intuit Dome seats? An undetermined amount of people, apparently. Is there not a number anywhere here? It doesn't say the capacity.
Well, is it one of the little itty bitty domes or one of the big bad domes?
Intuit Dome. Intuit Dome capacity, 18,000 people.
See, that's a little dome. That's a big dome. Arena, but a little dome.
All right, Jim. Well, let's now go to the main event here.
Yeah, boy.
The AEW roster review. We previously went through A through J as well as the women's roster. Any thoughts or notes before we continue on with this review of the roster?
Well, I think we got to bring people up to date. Basically, you can hear our thought processes behind the whole thing on YouTube. The clip is there reviewing the roster A through J or whatever. But we can't take the booking out on the talent because it's not their fault. And in some cases, how they've been booked, we're just taking the talent that I think that you could actually do something with in a serious, real professional promotion instead of the, hey, kids, let's put on a show, All Friends Network. And it might be changing their presentation or babyface to heel or whatever. We'll determine that later on. But is there something with anybody? And I will real quick recap. We have kept Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, Anthony Bowens, A.R. Fox, Austin and Colton Gunn, Bandito. And by the way, we're keeping them all, but not permanently. And some of them I'm on the fence about still. Big Bill, Brody King, Buddy Matthews, Cash Wheeler, Claudio, and you're on the fence too there, Brian.
I'm not on any
Darby
fence.
Allin.
I'm not on any fence. No Claudio.
You've fallen completely over into the pig pen. Darby Allin, Dax Wheeler, Dustin, Hook, Jay Lethal, Jay White, Juice Robinson, John Morrison, and Josh Alexander. And in the middle, in potentially non-wrestling capacities, we've got Christian Cage, Billy Gunn, Adam Cole, Arya Daivari, and Jeff Jarrett.
Yes, and the non-wrestling capacity is stay home.
Well, no. They could be promoters, they could be trainers, they could be fucking producers. We're talking about whether we keep people, but not
you know what I would do?
How we use them.
I would put Adam Cole in charge of the video game division.
Well, he couldn't have done worse than Kenny. What happened to that thing, by the way?
Ooh.
That's another clip. We're going to get bogged down.
That's another roster. Jim,
and we have fired. Well, hold on. We have fired John Moxley, Kenny Omega, because like I said, if you got two trained chimps doing the same tricks, pick the youngest and the freshest one, and we've not got to Osprey yet. We fired John Moxley, Kenny Omega, Shapoopy, Okada underlined, Solo. That's not Solo Sikoa.
Aaron Solo,
Action Andretti, Adam Page, because he's an empty-headed dipshit, Alex Abrahantes, because we couldn't figure out what he does, Alex Reynolds, Angelo Parco, Angelo Parker, and a go-go is what I'm trying to say. B-Con, who is that? Is that Tony's brother?
Bishop Con, Gates of Agony.
Okay. Brandon Cutler, Brian Cage, Brian Danielson, because he can't wrestle and he's gone apeshit mentally over the indie wrestling crowd. Brian Keith, Charlie Bravo, Chris Jericho, Christian Cage, as I said, up in the middle. Chuck Taylor, Colt Cabana, Edge, hate to say it. Danhausen, Daniel Garcia, Dante Martin, Darius Martin, Drillistico, Eddie Kingston, Evil Uno, Griff Garrison, Hologram, a Cassidy of some description. I've just got Cassidy here. Sean David, one
Isaiah
of them.
Cassidy from
there. He's that. Yeah, he's their younger brother. Jack Perry, John Silver, and Josh Woods. That was the fired list, and we just got to K now.
And you keep saying
and
we.
Depending on how many,
I would have kept Omega too, but a few differences than yours.
Well, because you can't teach him. And actually, I'm rethinking Osprey after the interview that he did, where he said, "Oh, bruv, we smoke the WWE in every aspect of wrestling, except for professionalism, drawing money, and gaining viewership. It's sometimes you can't." Do you want an employee for your widget company that not only is not good at making widgets, but wants to make different fucking widgets than what the majority of the people want to buy? Sometimes you just can't teach these fuckers.
Well, let's get back to teaching about widgets here in Fantasyland. Let's continue with the list. Let's go to the letter K.
I got the paper right here.
Limitless Keith Lee.
Fuck, I forgot about him.
Yeah, apparently he just put out a statement too recently. Someone's like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "I feel perfectly healthy. I'm just waiting."
Well, what the fuck? Wait a minute. Every time he's gone, he says he's perfectly healthy. He comes back, and we hear the story that he was near death. He looks near death, and then he goes away again. And then he says, "I'm perfectly healthy." I'm sorry. He's got to be perfectly gone. I can't do this. The back and forth and the Frazier promo and the gray hair and the fucking whatever. There was something there. It's long since passed. We'll see you later, Keith.
Here's what it is, Jim. Apparently, someone on Twitter, I don't have their name here. I wrote, "I hope Keith Lee is okay and doing well. I hope I will see him back in the ring. In hope you are doing well health-wise. I am truly blessed to be one of the many to watch you in the ring and hope to once again." To which Keith Lee responded, "You have my appreciation. I am quite well. Only time will tell when or where, but I am confident that time will come. Have patience, my friend. Lead with love. Be well." He's a very nice man, I have to say.
Very polite man.
Jim, back to the roster here. Kevin Knight.
Kevin Knight, we got to keep him. There's something going on there. We would see more of him and maybe figure out something. Let's keep him.
I agree, a good recent hire. What about Killswitch, formerly Luchasaurus?
Oh, good Lord. If he ever does come back, I would suggest he leave again. Killswitch, Dino douche, whatever. If he was capable of anything, we'd have seen it by now, a long time before now. And the only thing he's ever done is gotten away.
Here's someone who looks like an evil Colin Thompson, a.k.a. Colin Thompson. Super bad Kip Sabian.
Ha! Pip Sabian. Yeah, sayonara, Pip. He was gone for about a year, just sitting in the crowd with a box on his head. That's the best work he's ever done.
Jim, what about Commander?
Oh, come on.
You wouldn't want
Commander,
WWE to sign him.
Why not? Commander could be commanded to go somewhere else. Again, you've got... Well, I mean, I don't have the entire list in front of me. You're reading it to me, but we need to keep one of the gravity-defying luchadors. And I don't remember, truthfully, which is the best one, if there's any difference. Is it Commander? Is it Hologram? Is it Pentagram? Is it
the best
Octagram?
The best one was El Hijo del Vikingo.
Well, he's gone, isn't he?
And now that guy has a good ticket to every WWE show, it seems like. Those are expensive.
But you need one. I don't know. Maybe later on we'll go back and figure out who the best was. Bandito, I think that's why we put him down there. He actually... has the power to move a grown man around. So,
all right. So wait and see on Commander. Jim, the New Japan.
No, I'm putting him down as he's gone.
Oh, okay. Adios, Commander.
Because now that I've seen Bandito again, I'm reminded we've already got one.
Jim, the NJPW Never Openweight Champion from the Don Callis family, Konosuke Takeshita.
Keep him. We could start him over again under a different name with a different push, and maybe nobody remember what they've done to him so far.
Did you see he just announced he got married?
I did not. I wasn't actually looking for that announcement, therefore I didn't see it.
You want to know who he married? I swear to God, it's true.
Oh, come on now. He didn't marry somebody that I would know who the fuck they are.
He married Yuka Sakazaki. I know you know that name because it's such a catchy name. It's fun to say.
Yes, it's a catchy name. Well, maybe now she'll be barefoot and pregnant and give up the wrestling game.
Well, Jim, you want to keep Takeshita. What about Kota Ibushi?
Now let's let him join Commander. Although, do we have a motorized wheelchair to help Ibushi get out the door?
You know, I would keep him just because I don't think he's going to be wrestling much, and I kind of want to see him. You know, I don't know. You need a heel to really go over someone. Make it look. I don't know. There's just something about like the derpiness of him every time he walks out there with like that blank look on his face, and then we're told he's a great worker, and every time he's come out there, he's bombed. I guess perversely, I want to see more, but I can understand why you'd get rid of him.
Well, we'll let the perverts have a pick at the roster later on.
Jim, from the Don Callis family, Kyle Fletcher.
We got to keep Kyle. It's not his fault. He's surrounded by a bunch of morons. He's improved his body. He's got the size. He's very athletic. He just needs somebody to teach him why he's doing all this shit.
Would you keep Kyle O'Reilly from the Paragon?
Yeah, we said we weren't going to hold booking against anybody. Purely as a performer, yes. And again, you know, there's hope that people would forget if you kept some of these people hidden long enough, forget what they've seen before, and you could reintroduce them. Kyle's a good, hardworking, dedicated young man.
What about the Murder Hawk monster from the Don Callis family, Lance Archer?
You know, again, that's... If we're not taking the booking into account, just the whole stupid way that he's been presented for the entire 5 or 6 years or whatever, you could do something with him. He's not going to be the world champion, but let's keep Lance Archer for right now.
What about Big Shotty Lee Johnson?
And we'll put Lance Archer in the spot that's been vacated by Lee Johnson on his way out the door.
Jim, what about the Ring of Honor?
No size, no physique, no what the fuck. He's interchangeable with all of these indie guys.
What about the Ring of Honor Pure Champion from Shane Taylor Promotions, Lee Moriarty?
Now that I'm trying to think, do I know the difference between Lee Johnson and Lee Moriarty? Fire both of them.
What about Leo Rush from Crew?
No, keep that little weasel.
I agree. He's entertaining.
He can talk and he can work and he's got something. He would again be one of the hottest managers in the history of the business if I was the booker.
What about the butler, Luther?
Oh, can we please send Eric von Stroheim to the motion picture country home?
What about from the MXM collection, Mansoor?
And Monsway can go with him. What's the other guy's name?
Well, we have him here too. He's under this MXM collection, Mason Madden.
Yeah, well, both of them are no, they're not John Madden, either one of them. They're gone. That's just, no, that'll never be redeemable.
Mark Briscoe.
We're keeping him. Obviously, not even a thought.
In terms of crowd reaction and involvement with main things, even though he's lost a ton, he loses, it seems like, every single match. Do you think it's done anything to help the crowd reactions to him, the fact that it seems like he's getting over more right now than he has before in Ring of Honor. In AEW, even though he's been there for a while and obviously he had a lot of sympathetic love from people and people liked him anyway at the beginning, but it seems like right now it's kind of, not to say it's clicking, but it's clicking better than it has in AEW for him.
Well, yeah, because this is a thing that's taken out of the hands of the booking and is in the hands of the fans. And regardless of whether he wins or loses, at first they were sympathetic because of what happened with Jay. But since then, Mark is just so good every time you see him that he's gotten over on his own merits, as he always does and should. But now the people know that he's being mistreated, and there's an extra, like, yes, we like this guy and we want to show it because it's a sympathy fucking cheer. It's the same day as like when the Midnight Express was getting beaten WCW all the time. The people cheered for us even more because they knew we were being fucked around. They like Mark to begin with, and they know that he's deserved much better than this, and so they're making their feelings known. But, nevertheless, yes, you'd have to be a complete idiot not to be able to understand that Mark Briscoe could be a major part of the roster. That's why the company is being run by a complete fucking idiot.
Well, speaking of Mark's, Jim, from the Don Callis family, Mark Davis.
I forgot about him. He's the one with the giant fucking voluminous ass, isn't he?
I guess you could say that. If you chose to.
I mean, he did one move one time that I really liked. I mean, it's just so bland and but let's keep him for a little while and see if we can figure out anything. Mark Davis.
From the premier athletes or representing them, Smart Mark Sterling.
Sorry, they somehow got him to refrain from hoking up the whole thing the other night, but every time we've seen him, it's just he's a parody of a manager and a parody of a lawyer, and I think he needs to be a parody of an employed person.
From Private Party, Mark Quinn.
And you know what? He's the one that I said, the high-flying fellow. Get rid of the Martins because they're always broke down anyway, and Mark Quinn would be the high-flying guy. But somebody commented, and I think it was on Twitter, that we haven't seen Mark Quinn in a while, and he's been hurt too. Did he have to tone down on the flying stuff, which was his raison d'etre, as they say? Keep Mark Quinn if he can still jump.
What about Daddy Magic, Matt Menard?
See if he can jump out the door.
Jim, what about
Daddy Mac's gone.
Matt Sydal.
Oh, come on. I mean, he was a nice worker a number of years ago. We haven't seen him on TV in forever, but at this point, age may be an issue. And also, he's small and does a lot of leaping like everybody else that we're trying to get rid of. I don't see a place for Matt Sydal right there.
Do you see a place for Kingdom member Matt Taven?
Where is he? Where the fuck is he? Matt Taven at one point in 2012, I think, we were trying to get him into Ring of Honor. He was the future of fucking wrestling. And he could do everything. And now him and Bennett, they've been hidden for so long. Yes, I'd keep Matt Taven. He's still young. And try to find him to determine what his strengths are these days.
All right. What about EVP from the Young Bucks and the Elite, Matthew Jackson?
How quickly could we give him his termination? Can I hire him for 2 different jobs so I can fire him from both of them?
If you were going to fire the Bucks and you did it on air live, do you think it would help the show?
Yes. I might make it pay-per-view.
Well, then it may not show up. You got to surprise him with it.
Well, no, I would say, hey, you assholes, You've got X amount of time on your contract. If you want any of that money, you will come to this pay-per-view where we're going to advertise it. We're going to fire your fucking asses in the middle of the ring and demand that you apologize to the fans for fucking up their only chance at a goddamn alternate wrestling promotion.
All right, Jim, what about...
I think people would buy that.
Would you buy Max Caster?
I don't think so anymore. He was over for a while with the rap and the whole thing, and he lost it. His matches were never his strong point. Bowens has passed him in the kind of hardworking dedication category. I mean, what do you think?
It's so weird because they were so hot, and then the breakup happened, the match happened, but it's almost like it didn't. Like, nothing really... It's the weirdest, like, these guys were a team, they were teasing the breakup, then the breakup happened and everyone just kind of went their own way, and then Caster started losing in seconds, and then Bowen just reappeared one day, Bowens, excuse me.
And beat him.
And beat him with Billy Gunn. And beat him. And then...
in 1 minute.
I don't think we've seen Caster again, and Bowens can't win a match. That was the feud. That was the whole breakup of the hottest tag team they had. The Acclaimed. At least for a time. Jim, what about...
Yeah, let's cast Caster out.
What about Michael Nakazawa?
Oh, for fuck's sake. He can't even still be employed there. Certainly not.
He is on the roster. This is their roster.
All right. Well, he wouldn't be anymore. I mean, that's a fairly foregone conclusion. A waste of time to begin with. And he was just because he was Kenny's jock holder and bag carrier. And he was the guy with the baby oil. So they can't bring him back now with the heat that baby oil's got. So there you go. It's just more joke fucking wrestling and friends, stooge friends to get a job off the billionaire.
What about Speedball Mike Bailey?
Oh boy. I mean, there are so many people on this roster that I would just relish the thought of being able to fire in person. Hold on, I got to start another page here. Spitball Bailey. It would be...
We're only an M.
Gone and forgotten. I'm on page 3 of firings, and I've only just started page 2 on the keepings.
What page does Mike Bennett of the Kingdom go on?
Mike Bennett goes back in the keepings until I could at least see, since he was a fabulous fucking in-ring talent 10 years ago, and I saw them have some wonderful tag team matches more recently than that until they got under this umbrella. I would want to see Mike Bennett and what he's doing these days to determine if he can still go, but my God, he's younger than some fucking folks, and you don't see him.
Yeah, I don't know. I would probably give up on him and Taven based on the way they were used, the way people reacted to him, the lack of reaction, I think, is the big.
But we said we weren't going to count booking because that wasn't their fault. That we're going to just take the guy. And Taven and Bennett were an excellent athletic tag team that you could see working with FTR, that you could see working with Juice Robinson and old light switch Jay White, that you could say wrestling tag teams instead of small gymnastic children or big giant fucking fat schlubs. You need some athletic tag teams in the upper middle of the card to provide a little action. It doesn't mean you have to goddamn make them the main event of the biggest pay-per-view of the year. Go ahead.
MJF from the Hurt Syndicate.
Let's keep him for now, just for the sake of it.
They have him here, but obviously will not be using them for the practice that we're doing here of compiling a roster. But Brody Lee and Brody Lee Jr., -1 from the Dark Order. From the Hurt Syndicate, MVP.
Well, MVP would be kept, but we got to put him in the middle as a manager rather than an active wrestler. Manager, agent, trainer, potential fucking enforcer, judge of wrestlers' court. I don't know.
From the Young Bucks and EVP, also in the Elite, Nicholas Jackson.
Yeah, let's get rid of him along with his fucking goofy brother as quickly as possible. That's what's caused a lot of this mess to begin with.
What about Nick Camarado?
You know, maybe later, if we were working on projects for years from now and etc., we could evaluate him. But right now, let's just not, because he's been gone so long. There's got to be something the matter with him. He just came back lost in seconds. We don't have this much time.
The Ring of Honor World TV Champion from the Patriarchy, Nick Wayne.
Oh, good Lord. I would be open to allowing him to return when he can legally rent a car. Otherwise, you know, no physique, kind of a moopy face. He's good to be a stooge in a group, but the way that they focused on him as some kind of second coming is just ridiculous. And unfortunately, he looks like so much of the rest of the roster were trying to weed that look out as they're just children playing wrestler and not somebody you would take seriously in a big budget promotion, maybe on an indie show. And he could spend some time there and get some wonderful experience for when he ever grows up and develops a personality. I'm sorry, continue on.
Freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy.
Would be freshly squeezed right out the door. I mean, patient zero for the fucking joke of this whole promotion. How can we make wrestling seem as fake and silly and uninteresting as possible with a bunch of fucking, what's the complete antithesis of the word tough? A bunch of soft ass childish pussies playing with each other instead of men fighting. You look that up in the dictionary, however you might do that, and there's a picture of our little puppy Pockets. He's not redeemable, and he's obviously has no discernible talent for major league wrestling.
What about Ortiz?
Good Lord. When did we last see him? Has it been 3 years?
I don't remember the last time, actually. I know Santana is in TNA.
Santana left.
Yeah, he's in TNA right now, yeah.
He asked to get out of there. And remember, the bone of contention between them as a team was that Santana was saying Ortiz was content to just sit around and get paid and do what he was told, and Santana had higher aspirations. That's why he left. Do you think that Ortiz has still been sitting home just getting paid?
Why sit at home when you could be flown into the show? I really don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea.
Wouldn't we have accidentally seen him in a backstage segment if he was still around?
Again, we'll see what we can find out.
I don't know that there's really. Let's hold on. I'm losing my notes now. Let's take Ortiz out of this equation because I don't remember what he looks like at this point.
Well, Jim, what about Death Riders member Pac?
Boy, that's a hard one. Because physically, not only his look, but what he can do athletically, you would think there's some way that he could be used. But at the same time, he tries to do all the top rope shit that everybody else does, and he's slow at it, and you have to stand there and wait on him forever. But if he had a manager and it was in a group and he didn't have to talk, but he could just do his shit and he was focused on, let's keep Pac. Just a completely different presentation, and he would mean something. And also he goes away for, I know they
nonstop.
Who was it hurt him just now?
Oh, he was in a match. It was his ankle.
They buckle bombed him and broke his ankle. But who was it that?
Oh, fuck. I don't remember now.
So that's almost like, a German suplex this guy, he busted my head open. How many times you ever heard that before? I buckled bombed a guy and broke his ankle. What the
And that was like weeks after I said the one thing I don't like about Pac is that he always disappears for periods of time, whether it's injury or visa issues, and then he just reappears and attacks someone. He's going to do it again now. He's just going to all of a sudden reappear and then get hurt again or something. What about Paul White?
good Lord. I mean, he was supposed to be doing commentary years ago when they signed him.
He did do commentary on YouTube.
But since when? For how long has it been since he is not?
Well, the YouTube canceled well, actually, they didn't cancel anything. AEW just stopped doing
YouTube. Boy, when YouTube cancels you, I'm not saying this for any other reason than there's nothing for him to do, but we've got to get rid of him because there's nothing for him to do.
What about Pretty Peter Avalon?
Oh, Christ. Pretty Peter needs to peter out. Pretty Peter is pretty gone.
How about
this is the kind of, again, just all these names of indie guys that never should have been involved in national television to begin with is what cluttered this show up from the start. Go ahead.
Was Peter Avalon the librarian?
Yes.
Oh, no shit. He's been there the whole time. Wow.
Yes.
All right. What about Preston Vance? Speaking of people that have been there forever, what about Preston Vance?
God damn, he was rotten the other night, wasn't he? Yeah, he's gone. No personality, no look, no gimmick, horrible name. Sometimes you can't tell if he's awake. Bleh.
Prince Nana.
Prince Nana would go in the middle with MVP in the manager's list, and then one would look for someone that Nana could manage that he could actually make successful, so he'd have somewhat of a reputation as a manager, and he'd get a chance to talk every once in a while. But that's just pie in the sky.
In the sky, Ricochet.
Ricochet. Well, he's going to bounce back from this decision, I'm sure. That Ricochet needs to go somewhere else.
Really? You haven't seen enough of him as a heel to think, okay, there's something I could do with him?
No, because he's an idiot, apparently, in real life and doesn't understand that everybody thinks he's a goddamn nerd. And I mean, athletically, you could do something with a chicken shit heel that acts like that and looks like that, except he has to know that he's being an annoying person instead of just being one and thinking that nothing's wrong. I don't think this guy's smart to the business.
All right. What about Roderick Strong from the Paragon?
Boy, there again, you could put Roddy in the ring with anybody and have a good match. He was definitely an asset 10, 15 years ago in Ring of Honor. He's getting older now, and nobody has put any credibility in him whatsoever since he's been in this fakakta company. He was just out there screaming people's names and wearing a neck brace and shit. But as an actual athletic performer, again, not to be the world champion, but to have good athletic matches with other now younger guys that you want to push, I would keep Roddy. Because he doesn't have to be at angles and cut fucking 15-minute promos. Roddy, go out there and in a fucking stiff athletic fashion. I'd like you to put Colton Gunn over in 9 minutes for me. Boom, you don't have to worry about nothing.
What about El Toro Blanco from La Facción Ingobernales? Or actually, it's not pluralized. Rush.
He's the asshole that just beats the shit out of all the baby faces, stands there and doesn't sell anything, isn't he?
It's called working.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We got Bandito. We don't need Rush. I think he's got a bad attitude.
Obviously, there's a lot of luchadors over the past 30 years that we've seen come up from Mexico and either have success or just at least be on US TV. Where do you fall on the names? Like, obviously, to the fans of Rush, the name doesn't matter. Maybe it works better in Mexico, but to the average person, do you think it works as a name for a wrestler, Rush?
No, it doesn't. Nor that's the thing. When you have one luchador Rey Mysterio. And it's a cool sounding name, and it's a cool mask, and it's a cool outfit, and he's a exceptional talent in a area that has not been, or had not at the time that people saw him, been overexposed and beaten to death. Small, high flyer. It needs the package. You can't just have these guys with these goofy names that don't translate, that can't speak, that all look the same to the casual observer because they're all wearing mostly full body outfits and some kind of decorated mask, and they're doing the same style of shit and the same moves, and expect any of them to get over no matter how good they are. You don't throw 10 people out there doing the same kind of shit and, hey, pick the best one. You say, this guy does a different style and different shit than everybody else on my roster, and I'm going to feature him because he's the best one at it. I'm sorry. Yeah. Rush can rush on out.
Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champion Sammy Guevara.
Boy, how do you get? We know that he's kind of a dipshit. Do we want to put up with that? Has he grown up a little bit and learned his lesson? He's still, 6 years ago, we said he looks like he's 12 years old. That's been 6 years. Now he looks 14. Let's keep him around because he has, if you could produce him, if you could avoid him having to tell us all at least one time per match that he's a crazy lunatic.
I'm loco. Watch this. Oh,
I'm loco. I'm going to do something stupid. Go, stupid, go. Go, stupid, go. It's just.
Well, I guess
you'll
keep him, all right?
We'll keep him.
Satnam Singh.
Oh, brother. Sorry, Satnam. You've been sitting out so far, and now you're going to be sat out for the rest. Not in this particular day and age. Can you take a guy that immobile just because he's that giant and do anything with him, and they didn't give it a real good try?
Do you think anyone will ever do a giant right again, or does it all depend on actually having the right person? And
it depends on the giant. You can always say that, well, Vince booked Andre right, but not after that. But the thing is, the number of 7-foot people in wrestling has drastically increased over the decades, as I guess has the number of 7-foot people in captivity in general. So the 7-foot giant now, and especially now that people are smart in such larger numbers, the giant needs to also be able to work. And people forget Andre could work. Paul White Big Show turned into a pretty good worker. But you can't just because a guy's big, and I'm not saying just work, do the moves, but work, have a personality, work, have something different about you than all the other 7-foot giants that we've seen.
Jim, here's a name that recently came up. Scorpio Sky.
Well, I would keep him. From what I remember of him, he was athletic. He was a little boring on the personality side, but his booking was weird, and the SCU group that they tried to, I don't know. Let's keep Scorpio Sky just because he's a grown adult man and a pretty decent athlete and experienced, and see if we can work something out later. Again, the problem is on the keep list that we're compiling, we're keeping a lot of guys that have good, solid matches, are athletic, and you could do something with and point in the right direction and put on the card. But there's like 3 so far that I would say, oh my God, this guy is one of my money guys. And I don't know if I've got 3 yet, and MJF has been damaged, so keep going.
From the Spanish Announce Project, Serpentico.
Oh, Christ on a cracker. He's not even a real Mexican, is he?
I don't know. Which one is
isn't he the phony Mexican?
No, that's, is that Serpentico? There used to be another guy who was...
Angelico.
No, Angelico doesn't wear a mask. He dances like a woman.
Dralistico.
No, that's another guy. There used to be, in the old days, wasn't there another guy that was like friends with like Sammy or something, so he was on the roster? Or was that Serpentico?
Point, he ain't on the roster anymore.
What about Shane Taylor from Shane Taylor Promotions?
Boy, I tell you what, he's got a giant fucking ass on him, doesn't he?
Not the first thing I look for.
He looks like one of those. No, he looks like one of those fucking guys that you pour the things you pour the sand in, the boxing dummies. You pour the sand in the bottom so they won't tip over.
So I guess you're keeping him now that you're working a feud with him.
No, I'm just saying he was incredibly not physically impressive to that degree when I saw him. No, I think he can go also, because what the fuck?
What about the captain, Sean Dean, of both the Infantry and Shane Taylor Promotions?
Well, how could he be a captain of both? Doesn't the Infantry require exclusivity?
I believe he's a captain in general, and he brings that captainship to both groups.
Well, why don't he go down with his ship?
All right. Well, what about... I think we actually did him. We did Shelton Benjamin with the tag team champions.
Okay, yeah, because they were champions. They were mentioned first.
Sanjay Dutt.
Well, again, Sanjay doesn't wrestle anymore. I enjoyed working with Sanjay in TNA, but I saw the fucking stuff he was doing when he was with Jarrett with the comedy and the jumping up and down and just everybody's having. I liked Sanjay's, attitude and determination and work ethic, but is he too far on the comedy wrestling now? Let's put him in the middle as an agent and see what happens later on.
The Icon Sting.
Well, as we've said about something before, wish in one hand and shit in the other to see which one fills up first. Sting ain't coming back unless, they give him another multi-millions of dollars to come and put his face paint on and sign autographs. So I don't think Sting needs to be a topic of this discussion. He's retired.
What about Stokely?
Stokely, there's something, put him in the middle as another manager. There's something there. He can talk. If there was ever any credibility given to him as a manager of main event personnel, and he had material that something he was given to talk about instead of just making shit up. I'm not saying he can't, he's not going to be Bobby Heenan, but he wouldn't suck.
What about Swerve Strickland?
You got to keep Swerve until we can figure out if it's just one of those deals where they're only going to cheer him if he's a heel and they're only going to just not give a shit if he's a babyface. And if it's just all about chanting whose house it is.
Well, Jim, we are in the home stretch. We are now at the letter T. Starting the letter T.
Titty! What about Titty?
That's not one of the wrestlers here. What about the Beast Mortos?
Frank?
Under T.
The Beast Mortos.
For the.
Under T.
What was the is under T? The Beast Mortos. Would you keep him?
No.
What about for the legal department?
You know what? Let's put him in the middle. And I'm going to put down Frank Mortos, legal department. No, it's just, again, it's a funny looking outfit at a time where if you wanted to be an alternative product and appeal to a mainstream audience, you would try to avoid the fucking just clown show visual of this program with all of the, I'm sorry, whether anybody likes it or not, and in some cases it was very, very bad. The WWF and WWE have set the tone in people's mind for what a pro wrestler is supposed to look like in terms of some type of athletic standard and size threshold. And when you get children and guys in ridiculous bull outfits, and this would go for Mantor or Yukon Moose Cholak now too, it looks too hokey and low rent and indie wrestling to make money in this day and age. So sorry.
What about the Blade?
Is he still there? He was the bunny's other.
Yeah, now she's not there, but he is.
Well, but he ain't been there in 2 years at least.
Well, he must be doing.
When's the last time we saw this guy?
Well, again, they have a lot of programming that we don't watch, I think.
Well, but when did you last see his name on a website?
It didn't stick out, so I don't know. I don't.
Well,
remember.
let's stick him out. Blade, no, sorry. He was a nice, athletic-looking guy. He wasn't the fat, bearded old fuck, the butcher, but you know what? Let's keep the Blade if he still indeed is still alive, because I remember he was halfway athletic. We might could do something with it.
What about the Butcher?
Let's get rid of the fucking Butcher.
What about Toa Leone? Or that's not even the name.
Tia Leone.
Toa
is what her name
Leona.
is.
No, it's not her. It's not the actress. Toa Leona from the Gates of Agony.
Well, I would keep Tia Leone, but I'm not keeping anybody else.
From the Premier Athletes, Tony Nese.
He's, again, hadn't seen him in forever. He came to a Ring of Honor tryout in 2010, and I thought at that time for that program, he was very athletic, could go, smaller size, fit some of the other guys. It would have fit there. Right now, they don't fit. No, not at all. Square peg, round hole.
From the Don Callis family, Trent Beretta.
Oh, Christ. Can we get his mother to pick him up? He's irredeemable. You can never come back from that shit and be taken seriously. He was partners with Muffin Top Taylor. He had a mother that brought him to the matches in a minivan and baked him cookies. And he was part of that ridiculous, he was the sidekick to the mascot. How unimportant can you get?
And again, maybe we have to revisit this another time, see who is not on this list here, because obviously Rocky Romero, his partner, not on the roster list. What about from the Outrunners, Truth Magnum?
I think the Outriggers both got to go. I can't remember what their name is, but it's an embarrassing gimmick that, again, just appeals to the people that want to laugh at wrestling and think it's silly. And that's what you're trying to get away from so that you can attempt to draw a more mainstream audience with a professionally produced program.
So I guess you're saying goodbye to Turbo Floyd as well.
Truth and Turbo have been terminated.
3 more names, Jim.
Oh, good Lord.
Mr. Mayhem, Wardlow.
And he wasn't even on top of Mount Everest. Think about that. They ruined that opportunity.
Hey, let me stop you real quick. We've heard from a couple of people, I don't know why, they're like upset. Jim hasn't talked about Darby climbing Everest. Any comments you have about Darby climbing Everest with a AEW flag?
Well, yeah, he's a fucking idiot. Why do you want to put yourself through that? Did you see, it was just on the internet a couple of days ago, they had a traffic jam of people waiting to climb to the top of Mount Everest. There was pictures of the lines of people. I guess it was a good weather day, so everybody decided they'd go. They had to wait in line where one group goes up and takes their picture on the top, and then the Sherpas take them wherever. And then the next group comes up, and there were people lined up, like a couple of hundred of them, up and down this goddamn trail to this mountain. I didn't know that it was so commercialized. But the point is, this empty-headed dipshit still has a job that pays him millions of dollars a year that he took off of to go climb a fucking mountain where there was a 1% chance he could die.
Well, what a big babyface return that will be.
Back to Wardlow. Yeah, we'll keep him if we can find him.
From the Death Riders, Wheeler Yuta.
Oh boy, how quick can we get him out of here? I'm so sick of that whole business.
And finally, Jim, Will Ospreay.
You got to keep him, even though I think he's an idiot, because maybe he could be reformed or taught something. And, that's the problem is when you go through who we've kept, who could be the guy, the champion, the top star of the company and actually perform at a high professional level and draw some money. And as I'm looking down this list, some people might say Darby Allin, that he ain't going to be the guy. Kyle is a few years away from that, and he needs to learn some things. MJF was there, but they diminished him. Osprey, that's the list of who could be the guy. And on the fired side, wait a minute, I've got 3 pages of fired now. I'll even say who some people think could be the guy, and I have told you what I think of him because I fired him. But on this list that I'm looking at, nobody ever said, unless there's some Spitball Bailey fans out there that think there wasn't the guy on that page.
I don't think so.
How about the Dralistico edited hologram? Jack Perry. We dumped his ass. I don't think anybody still believes he could be one of the guy, one of the pillars. Again, there's nobody on this page either that anybody is even saying, okay, let's go to the front page. Moxley. Well, that's already happening, and that's been the shits. Kenny. That's already happened, and it ain't going to ever be as good as it once was. It wasn't particularly that good. Okada. Can you imagine if he was the AEW World Champion, how bad those matches would be? Since he would still not bother to try to fall down. Adam Page, who probably will be the champion again, and that's going to suck. That's the names on this list. Jericho, Edge. They haven't got a guy. If they fumble Osprey, he's the least damaged one yet. If they fuck him up, they haven't got a guy to be the guy. Did I overlook any guys?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm sitting here trying to think who's not on this list. I brought up Rocky Romero before. Just have to be other examples of guys, but I mean, Gabe Kidd wasn't on the list, obviously. I'm not to say he's the guy, but he's new. I think their top guys the last few years have been MJF, not so much lately. Adam Page, Swerve Strickland, Ospreay. Moxley.
Oh, we kept Swerve, and I could mention Swerve. Swerve's in that group, but he's already been there.
Yeah. Ospreay's the one that you could build because he has not held the world title. Everyone else has. MJF has, Adam Page has, Omega has, Jericho has, Moxley has, Swerve has.
Swerve?
Yeah. All right, I didn't think this was going to depress me so much here at the end of this.
Well, but now the next thing we'll do, and we're going to do this for the WWF too.
Oh, yeah.
But the next thing we'll do is we'll go through who we kept and then we'll separate main event guys from guys on the card. And we're going to have 6 guys on top and 28 on the bottom. That's the problem. All right.
Well, that was the AEW roster review, K to Z. And we've covered everything in the world from A to Z here today. So with that, the drive-thru is closed. There it is.
All right, Miyoshi Yumiki.
All right. It's dinner time. So it's time to wrap things up. We'll be back next week on the drive-thru, and of course, in a few days on the Jim Cornette Experience, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Jim's on Twitter at the Jim Cornette. I'm on Twitter at Great Brian Last. I'm on all social media at Great Brian Last. I think one of them is the Great Brian Last also. But check me out. I'm everywhere. And of course, go through the archive. Patreon.com/Cornette. $5 a month gets you access to the archive. Going back to the very beginning. Patreon.com/Cornette. YouTube.com/Cornette. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, just go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette. Full episodes, clips of the episodes, omnibus collections. I'm going to do this quick. I hear a screaming baby out there. Omnibus collections, all with the Travis Heckel artwork you know and love. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, official Drive Thru shirts, as well as some other cool shirts like Lazy Booking and Corny, available right now on the Shop app. Look for Arcadian Vanguard or Jim Cornette, ArcadianVanguard.com, or at the bottom of every one of our YouTube videos. Cornette's Collectibles at JimCornette.com. What's going on, Jim?
Well, as I mentioned earlier in the program, if you want to give us a week or two, Hotchkiss has illness in the family, but we're going to get back to action as quickly as possible, and updates will come on the next few programs.
JimCornette.com. And of course, we'll have lots of updates about other things, including legal issues. And if you need to sue, call Stephen P. New. He sponsors the Drive Thru, 877-50-STEVE. Get even with Stephen. NewLawOffice.com. And that's it for today. Until the experience in a few days, and next week back here on the Drive Thru. For Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last.